All right, what's up, everybody? What's up, Hominis? How we doing today?
Not too bad, man. How's your Labor Day been?
It's been chill, you know. It's been the same as the whole past week because I've been homesick with the Rona. I finally got it. I think it was the last time that we had a podcast that we talked about the fact that I still haven't gotten it and you had, right? I think we mentioned it at some point. It was either last time or the time before that.
I think it was. I think it was the last time. Seems like you were feeling a little left out.
Yeah, I was like, hey, wait a second. Everybody else gets COVID and everybody was afraid of getting COVID and I still didn't get it. And then, boom, I went to a concert. It was not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before. And I'm pretty sure I got it there. Because it was just indoors, fucking mosh pit, bunch of sweaty dudes, a couple of sweaty chicks. And, like up against people the whole time. So,
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
It was a good show, though, right?
Fuck yeah, dude.
Well,
It was so good. Yeah, it was a California band called Fu Manchu, which, they've been around a while since like the early 90s, I want to say. I think they have a song in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. I remember. But yeah, they're one of my favorite bands to see live because it's just like fucking nice, good old fashioned like skater heavy metal. Bob your head, like fuck, dude. Whenever I go to a Fu Manchu show, the very next day, my neck muscles are all sore, like I just had a neck workout, because it's literally just like bobbing your like fucking hardcore like head bobbing, fucking for like the whole set because they're just their music is just so fucking good. And yeah, like when I was done with that show, when I was done and I was leaving, my shirt was drenched in sweat. Like I could have just taken that off and like wrung it out like I had just gotten out of the pool instead of. So sweaty, but that's always the sign of a good show.
Good. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, plus a guy like me who in his 30s, I'm I can't exactly like fully like go hard in the pit like I used to when I was 17 and shit, but yeah, for a Fu Manchu show I'll definitely do that. But then I got COVID, and so yeah, I haven't been able to work.
And now you're dead. You're dead, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you're dead.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Oh, that works. You got it. You're dead.
My roommate, she's also dead. No, that's the funny thing is that I don't even think my roommate's gotten it yet. I've been making sure to like not like go in the kitchen when she's cooking and just trying to keep a little bit of distance. I would just assume that like if she had gotten it, I would just assume that I was gonna get it. At that point, it's just somebody who's in my house has it. It's contagious. I'm gonna get it. But I'd still not gonna like go up there and start having a conversation 2 feet away from her face like, yeah, just don't worry about it. It's still surprising actually this whole week she hasn't gotten it.
Yeah, because I got it from like when I got it from people I was working with. Of course, when I got it, I got sent into the fucking hot zone. There were 8 people that were out sick with it when I got it, so it was just kind of a given that I was gonna get it. And then once I got it, of course my wife got it, so
Yeah, no, but it hasn't been too bad. I haven't even really done much to combat it, like in terms of like medicine. I just drink a decent amount of water, and my mom when my mom called yesterday just to talk, calls to catch up and talk about stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I haven't talked to you since I got COVID. I have COVID right now, Mom. And she's like, really? Like, you want some soup? Like, well, yeah, sure. Want some soup? That sounds like a great idea. Like, I'm not gonna say no to my mama soup. And so then yesterday she comes over and brings over fucking butternut squash soup and a
nice
and a carrot soup, which is pretty good, and a couple of other things. But she got me a couple of COVID tests too, so that I don't have to go out and buy them. And then I took the test again this morning, and positive again. Like shit.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to work because I I don't know how this like COVID like, you know, compensation or whatever, like the sick leave shit like works. Like I don't know how active it still is or any of that shit. And it's like, yo, this is like the beginning of the month. I really need money right now. I can't be just like, you know, eating like fucking a week off of work and you know, like I can't just go without work in terms of like I need the money that I get from work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
I get it. Trust me. I was basically same thing happened to me when I got it. They were like, well, you can either, you know, take your sick time, or not even sick time. It's like you basically just take these 6 days off. You won't be penalized or anything for it, but you also won't get paid. Or you can make up the time by, you know, working an extra 6 days over the next month or so, which is what I ended up having to do. But I mean, you know, I still got paid that way, and at least it was spread out. But yeah, I had to choose between not getting paid or working a whole bunch extra, which sucked a little bit.
Yeah. See, we'll see how that goes. And then my mom calls me up today. She's like, "Hey, now I want to bring you over like this vegetable broth that I made." I'm like, "Okay, well, sounds great as well." It was like this giant like, you know, those like glass salad spinners that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Oh
it
my
was
God.
like it was like nearly
huge.
full. Yeah. I was like, "What the fuck? This is so much." But yeah, I was down for it. I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Got me a
No,
giant
that does sound good.
broth and vegetables and shit. Super good.
Did it have like veggies in it, or was it
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
straight
yeah.
broth?
No, it wasn't just
Nice.
straight broth. Like she kept the veggies in there. It was mushrooms and carrots. It's a good shit.
Nice.
Yeah, that's exactly what I like to see.
I'm not a massive like vegetable soup person, but I will absolutely kill any kind of like vegetable stew that's got like mushrooms and stuff in it. I
yeah.
love mushrooms.
Yeah, I love me some mushrooms in a soup. Just mushrooms in general, but like mushrooms in a soup is
Yeah.
oh, I'm taking it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I make a mean is potato soup. Potato soup is a pretty good one.
Potato soups. I like potatoes. I put them
Oh,
in all kinds of stuff.
yeah.
It's like one of the main ingredients when I make stew, which is coming up on stew weather finally. So I'll be making some stew pretty soon. But I always load that shit with potatoes because I fucking love potatoes, especially the red skin potatoes in stew. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna bust out my slow cooker again. I got it on the bottom shelf of my pantry, and I need to
See?
bust it out, dust it off, and make a nice stew or something.
Nice. Yeah, it's getting about that. It's physically cooling down around here. It's been raining a shitload, so that could be part of it. But it's finally starting to get down to where it's like we might have a normal day that doesn't get above 70 or 80.
I'm
Should be nice. It's been hot
sorry,
as shit
sir.
lately.
I'm going to strike you. Like if I'm not like you're talking. California has a heat wave right now.
Oh yeah, I know.
We are so fucked. Like I'm actually in the great part of the state. Like I'm the perfect part of the state because I am about 3.5 miles away from the beach, and it's cool right here. It's cooler than like even 10 minutes more inland, you know? And so like I'm dealing with what is it right now? It's 86 right now. And yeah, this is the cooler area of the state. Like down in like central Orange County, they're like at 90. Fucking what's his name? Foxes and Crocs. I saw his post in like Sacramento, Northern California. Their ass is in like 110.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, my wife is actually in the Sacramento area a little while ago to visit some people there, and it was extremely hot the whole time. Honestly, I was not jealous.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it still gets up there around here, like especially like during July and August. I mean, it's like 90 to at least like 10, I'd say 6 or 7 every day.
Damn.
Just in the middle of the day, and then it cools down. But we are snuggled up a little bit closer to the mountains around here, so when it does cool down, it starts cooling down pretty quick, which is nice. We get a lot of
Nice.
rain. That kind of knocks all the heat out of everything, but like still pretty steamy. It was pretty warm today, so like the first half hour of it raining, it was just kind of like you walked outside, it was like getting hit in the face with a hot wet washcloth.
Oh no.
So that was fun.
I
Oh,
hate
it was humid.
I hate hot rain. That shit sucks.
Oh yeah, it was just even once the rain stopped, you walked outside for 10 minutes and came back in, you were just wet for no reason.
That sounds right. So what we got going on for us today? First, just a bit of comedy because I thought we would have ourselves a fun time. Have
What do you
this.
want to call out in the heavyweight division?
Oh, you know it, lad. You know that Hassan Piker. I'm coming to kill you in Los Angeles at your house.
Or in the ring?
No, in real life. I'm going to stalk him and become obsessed with him and wear his makeup and his dresses and use his skin as a coat like the ancient Irish did.
Well, that's your winner, Sam Hyde!
Bloody.
Oh man, I don't know. It's really stupid, right? Like it's just really dumb, but it's so good. Because
No,
like
but it's funny. The delivery is fucking excellent.
it's
Like,
so
but in the
spot
ring,
on.
no, in real life.
At his house in Los Angeles, California. Because like the funny thing is that like you know, Hassan, well, one, he's obviously very like, you know, arrogantly like, yeah, punch a Nazi, fuck Nazis, I hate Nazis, I'll punch a Nazi. And as soon as this shit happened, he's like, what, this fucking mentally ill Nazi wants to fight me, I'm not gonna respond to this is dumb, blah blah blah. And you know what, fine, whatever. Like I don't, you don't, nobody needs to respond to nothing, right? If somebody's like, oh yeah, like if Hassan was saying shit about me, right, and he's just like, oh yeah, he said he was gonna kill me and stuff, I'm just like, okay, whatever. I mean, that's fine, I guess. Go for it. But he really like got bent out of shape about it and panties in a twist. And the fact is, like, nobody believes Sam Hyde is a Nazi. Like, other than these like fucking absolute like smooth brain NPCs who just get all of their talking points from like specific places and like, you know, from Reddit and all this shit. And
Yeah.
you know, maybe somebody like that believes that Sam Hyde is a Nazi, but most people who have ever heard of Sam Hyde, ever seen anything that he ever fucking does, knows exactly who he is. Knows this dude just likes to pull shit with people. He likes to push people's buttons. He likes to say whatever is gonna get under people's skin, and then just watch the, you know, the beautiful like reactions unfold. He's like the smooth shark guy, right? Where it's just like, look,
Yeah.
like there's a very easy way out of this. There's a totally easy way to not be targeted, not, you know, be the butt of the joke. It's just don't fucking react. Like, don't react like an idiot. And the joke doesn't work anymore. You know? All the people, you know, the smooth shark shit, like all the people who didn't respond to Mr. Smooth Shark, even after they know that he's wrong, but they don't respond. They don't say shit. And so they don't look stupid on the internet. The only people who look stupid
Right.
on the internet are the people who insisted to prove this guy wrong. Sharks are actually super rough and they'll cut you and shit. And this guy, all he has to do is be like, nah, you're wrong. It actually, they're smooth. And he's not going to lose. And all of those people, all they had to do to look intelligent was not react. And, you know, Hassan's the same fucking way. He can't help himself. And, you know, and I love this. I forget where, well, it was on another video clip, but I forgot what the channel was, where they like did a more like long form interview with him where Sam Hyde was like out of character. Like not in terms of his Sam Hyde character. I mean, a little bit too. He was pretty calm and pretty like normal. But like out of the boxing character that he has like for this fight or whatever, the Candyman with the Irish accent. So he wasn't speaking with like the Irish accent and everything, but it was funny. Even when he was talking about it, he's like, "Yeah, I fucking hate doing that." The Candyman character. He's like, "I don't like that at all. I'm not gonna stick with that." But you know, I was like, "Yeah. So what's your problem with him?" Or like, you know, why do you want to fight? And he's like, "I just don't like the fucking guy." Plain as day is like, I don't even give a shit about his politics. His politics are normal. Like tons of people have his politics. It's just that like I just don't like the guy himself. And I'd say that's fair. You know, his politics are terrible, but also he's just really just smarmy and annoying, douchey sort of guy. And so I can totally buy. Well, for one, I don't like him. So yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with politics in terms of like, oh, dunk on the leftist or dunk on the commie or whatever. It's just, yeah,
No, he
Hassan.
just thinks he's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, Hassan just kind of sucks. Uh, so why not beat him up? It would be really funny. And so yeah, I thought that was a great little bit of current events. It happened, what, it was on the 1st or some shit. And yeah, of course Hassan was very whiny about it the whole time. Another
No,
news, we have
it's extremely funny and well delivered. That shit made me laugh when I first saw it, and I wasn't even entirely sure what the context was, but it was fucking hilarious.
oh, I know, yeah, I didn't even I had just seen the one clip too, because I didn't know that they were having a fucking like boxing. I mean, I knew that like KSI and those guys have been doing like boxing matches for a while now. I just didn't know that Sam Hyde was involved with one. Yeah, he would just fucking say, I'm gonna kill Hassan now. It was so fun.
I'm gonna kill you.
In real life. Oh, good. That was so good. And we have Lord of the Rings. Rings of Power came out. I did not watch it. I'm not going to hate watch it.
Oh no, I refuse to even acknowledge. Well, I mean, aside from obviously now, I refuse to fucking acknowledge that it exists. People try to talk to me about it all the time because people I work with and stuff know that I'm a big Tolkien fan because I won't shut the fuck up about it. And yeah, I have no intention of watching it or even pirating it because I'm not even curious.
No, I've been watching like YouTube people reviewing it and talking about the plot and talking about like the dialogue and all that shit. And so I have a general idea of well, not only what happened but also just what's really awful about it, and it's a lot. I mean, I expected a lot of it, but it's also just surprising to see how well they like hit the marks on all of the bad shit. And but I'm not gonna watch. I'm not gonna hate watch it. Leave it fucking alone over there. But at least when it comes to like Amazon, like the app or the fucking website, none of that. It's not getting a view on my account. But yeah, I will watch the YouTube coverage of other people who have watched it talking about it because I'm curious just to see what they're doing with it. But yeah, like I said, I don't want to actually physically watch it myself on the Amazon platform to not give them the view. And also, I'm just going to be calling it the Rings of Power. I don't think that it should have Lord of the Rings in front of it for, I mean, amazingly obvious reasons. It's just not the Lord of the Rings. It's not Tolkien. The characters are not Tolkien's characters. I mean, half of the characters are straight up not Tolkien's characters at all. They literally are made up characters.
They don't exist. The same shit that they did with when they made the the Hobbit movies and had to invent a whole character to toss in there. Same thing.
Yeah, they had to like pad it out a bit. So I mean, obviously, there's half of the characters that are literally not Tolkien characters, but also the characters that are Tolkien characters are just not those characters. They just have the name, and that's fucking about it. And
About it, yeah.
you look at Galadriel.
I knew it was gonna be bad.
Oh,
I knew it
yeah.
was going to be extraordinarily bad when they said, we're writing this story that Tolkien didn't write. And I'm like, well, then why the fuck would I be interested in
Yeah,
watching
updating
it?
it for modern audiences. All those fucking phrases.
Saying about you, bro.
Yeah, all those, like, those red flag phrases that you're like, oh, you wanted to do something new and not actually honor the source material at all. Wow, can't wait for that.
And see, I don't get why they don't. And well, no, okay, I take it back. I get why they don't do something new because then they don't have this boost of popularity to piggyback onto when they put this shit on. But I don't get. I guess I don't get why people fucking fall for it. Like you can slap just about anything popular onto something now, and then people will go see it because, oh well, it's called this and it's vaguely flavored, to kind of fit with some of the shit. So it's part of the fandom now, and they just accept it and go along with it. I'm like, man, do you have no like standards? Like, do you not give a shit about the fact that, something that you say that you like is being like eroded?
Yeah,
I,
it's just people don't think about the content that they consume, right? They don't
well,
actually mull
yeah.
over.
Ironically, they're just consumers, and a lot of the people I see defending it are these uh ironic, these like, super woke leftists that they say they hate capitalism and all this other shit, but then they'll just gobble shit like this up,
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, they'll watch it and you'll watch it and then you'll be like, yeah, that was shit. Like, wait, what? But there was and I'm like, well, nothing made sense. Nothing at all made sense.
How could it not be good though? There was a black dwarf. How could it not be good? I don't understand.
Yeah, that
Did
was
she
really
have
good.
a beard? No.
No.
But she was black.
Wager on voluntarism. Fan fiction that bought the blessing of the Tolkien estate. May they be cursed forever. Yeah, it's really telling that they started to pull all of this right when Chris Tolkien died, because obviously he was very passionate about preserving his father's legacy and making sure that
Yep.
that his work was honored correctly if it was going to be adapted and all that. And so yeah, they waited for him to kick it before they actually did anything. And
Swooped in like
there's
fucking
just
vultures.
there's so many mistakes in it too, in terms of like this is an elf, right? Like, look at the bottom of this screen. That guy is
that's
an elf.
Sure.
Like
You say so.
the elves look like humans in this, and they have like
They
slightly
look like people.
I mean, the elves in Lord of the Rings never had like super pointy ears, right? But they had a different like gravity to their presence, right? Elves did,
They
because
had a very specific look to them, and like there was a reason why they had a very specific look to them. They weren't human. They were elves. They had a specific look. Their hair was all long for a specific reason. I mean, Tolkien, and okay, so this is probably the thing that pisses me off the most. So the biggest nerd on earth is fucking Tolkien. Like, this guy spent his entire life writing basically the backstory for this setting. He wrote cultures, he made languages.
Invented languages.
I mean,
yeah.
He didn't spare details. He wasn't the sort of person that did that. He went deep into absolutely everything. So anybody who wanted to make an adaptation of some of his work has volumes of stuff to go from that they could have pulled from, and they just kind of chose not to.
Yeah,
And I can't fathom why anybody who legitimately enjoys or cares about the work of Tolkien would be okay with that being done, considering the fact that they're basically saying, well, we're just going to push aside all of this guy's life's work. Like, this is the man who put the fantasy genre on the map as a respectable genre to write and to enjoy. I mean, we wouldn't have anything in this genre really, that, or maybe it might have still come around, but it wouldn't be as good, and it certainly wouldn't have the depth that it has now because of Tolkien. I mean, all kinds of shit was based off of Tolkien's work. Dungeons and Dragons wouldn't be Dungeons and Dragons without Tolkien.
Yeah, and like you pointed out, is like the reason why it endured for so long is because the writing was so like passionately done. Well, one, he had a great theme to work off of, right? Because the problem that these people don't have is that they don't know how to tell stories. They don't know why we tell stories. They
don't.
They think that telling stories is just about kind of inserting like the world that you want to see, or inserting the cause that you want to portray. But it's about people and our humanity, right? This is what we tell stories of, is to explain parts of ourselves and parts of our relationships with each other. and to
Yeah,
explore
and I
that.
mean, I'm afraid that what they're doing. Well, not afraid. I know what they're doing here. They're trying to make another Game of Thrones, which means that essentially they have no fucking clue what the Lord of the Rings was about in the first place, because you can't compare the two. You really can't. Sure, they're the same fantasy genre, but like what the Lord of the Rings was about ultimately has nothing to do with what Game of Thrones was about. It's the same reason why they said they were going to start putting, you know, sex and nudity and shit into the Lord of the Rings. It's like you've fucking missed the point. Like you've completely missed the point. The like at its core, like the J.R.R. Tolkien wrote the Lord of the Rings to be, I mean, about a lot of different things, but I think like the main thing that he was trying to get at was that, you had the hobbits at the center of all this, and there's a reason why he spends so much time talking about how simple and uh not I don't want to say pure necessarily, but just the fact that they had, everything that they necessarily felt like they needed, even though it wasn't wealth, it wasn't power, it wasn't it wasn't, these big kingdoms or anything like that. They were generally unknown, but they had each other and they had this community. And like, it sounds sappy, but like at the heart of it, the Lord of the Rings is about love. That's what it's about.
But yeah, it's about love between not only like like Arwen and Aragorn, or
Well, yeah,
like
there's
romantic
romantic
love,
love, but
but it's
then
also about like
yeah,
brotherhood, and about conquering, like literally conquering the fires of hell, uh in
it
order
makes
to
sense,
preserve what is good in the world, and what is righteous in the world,
right? And
and
I mean, I know he
being
says.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, no, no. You're good.
Well,
Go
yeah,
ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
just being willing to take upon a burden, and to go through sacrifices, and to come out on the other side knowing that you're, creating a better world for your community, for your brothers, for everybody.
I mean,
And
yeah,
yeah,
it
wager
makes
on
total
voluntarism
sense.
says,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know he says that.
hobbits possess an innocence. Wager on voluntarism said, which is, yeah, very very true.
Yeah, and he says that the Lord of the Rings is not like it's not allegorical. It's not supposed to really represent like a real event or like a historical event or anything like that. But even so, like I feel like, when you go through what Tolkien did, which, he was I don't know if a lot of people know. Um so he was a not a super like aristocratic, mega rich upper class, but he was a his family was well off.
Hmm.
He was upper class by any term that you would really want to consider it. Um, and
At
he
least
ended
enough
up,
so to give himself a good education. Yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely. And then he ends up in World War One, with a bunch of just regular dudes under his command. I mean, people that were drafted and were too poor to buy themselves out, like I suppose he could have, and didn't have a choice, and were thrown into this. I mean, World War One was horrible, like
It was fucking hell.
mentally for the people that were in it. And he lost all of them. Like he lost all of his men, and it devastated him that he was the only one that survived because, a lot of them, they were the only thing that their families really had to support them
Hmm.
and to keep them afloat. They were the only thing that their kids had in order to, grow up and have a future. And here he was from this, aristocratic family that would have been fine if they had lost him, realistically speaking. They would have, survived and
Yeah, they
moved
would.
on. They had money, they could have taken care of themselves. And, these families lost like the only thing that they really had. And he felt this tremendous sense of guilt because of it. Um,
Yeah,
and
like the
so
the, the
it shows
survivor's
up a
guilt type
lot.
of deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it shows up as a very common theme in his works, and then he writes this story about a bunch of very simple guys and they all survive. Like the heroes survive.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, you read the books and you understand that. but then you learn a lot of Tolkien's background and that kind of stuff, and then you really understand it. And the people who make shows like this or who try to take Tolkien's work and bastardize it in this way, it's just infuriating because I mean, they just don't care about any of this stuff.
Yeah, no, it's
They don't
very
care
clear that
about
they
it.
don't. And the one thing that's very obvious too, that I've been seeing in like everybody who's sorry. Yeah, that I've been seeing in everybody who's been doing these reviews and stuff, is that they've been pointing out a lot of the really like shallow dialogue and shallow just writing in general, where it's very clear, like from the lines that are being spoken and everything, that they tried to make it sound really like fantasy-y, right? And very regal,
Yeah.
and very kind of like, you know, fantasy realm type of deal, but it has like the depth of a fucking puddle. And so
Yeah, it's just hollow.
there was one like thing in the beginning where or not Arwen, in Galadriel, she's a little girl, young elf, and she has a little like one of those paper boats or whatever that is like floating along the river, and some kids are bullying her and they fucking try to sink the boat or whatever, and then the whole thing where she like beats them up, and so she doesn't really have any like anything to overcome, right? Because one, she's like, also like, why would they be making fun of her when she's like Galadriel, who's like who's her father? I forget. She's somebody important though, right? Like her father's like somebody fucking important. It's not like she's just a random fucking elf, and they're like making fun of her for no fucking reason. And then after all that happens, there's the elf that I showed you who doesn't look like an elf. That fucking guy. He says something like a stone sinks because it's looking down, and a boat floats because it looks up, or some shit like that. And it's just like, that's not that's not a thing. That's nothing.
What the fuck does that mean?
It doesn't mean anything.
Deep,
it's not wise. It's
nonsensical.
Yeah, and sure, I didn't quote it exactly, but it's about as nonsensical as that.
Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, again, it's just like the overall character design. Obviously, they don't give a shit about. I mean, the one of the big things with elves is their hair. Like, they fucking love their hair. They're all about their hair. The men have long hair. The women have long hair. And I think it's funny that they chopped all their fucking hair off in this show, considering that when Tolkien wrote, the Lord of the Rings, like the idea of like men having this long, gorgeous, flowing hair would have been kind of bizarre to people of Tolkien's time. They would have considered it extremely goofy.
Yeah,
to
like
think
girly.
of like men walking around with this long flowing hair and like taking even giving a shit about it at all and taking care of it and stuff like. So, I guess if you wanted to be extremely cringe and try to say that Tolkien was challenging cultural gender norms of the time or whatever, well, okay, then why the fuck would you change it?
Yeah.
Like,
and
I feel like that they would go the wokies would go nuts for that kind of shit, and for some reason they just changed it. No idea.
Yeah, there was a scene over here. I wish I could find the exact like point, but because these guys, have you ever watched the guy on the left, Shadiversary? Shad, I forgot his last. Oh, Shad Brooks. That's right. See it in the back. But he's really well educated in terms of like medieval history and like armor and weaponry and things like that. And so I like to watch his videos on anything that has to do with like traditional weapons and things like that, because he's usually really good at pointing out when people make mistakes, like fucking the whole backscabbard thing that really seems to be really popular. And he points out, is like, backscabbards are super fucking like unwieldy, and like you can't draw a sword from behind your back.
Awkward.
Yeah,
you really can't. I think for any kind of practical use, the way that most people kind of argue that they would have used them is that you would have had to rotate it around your body.
Yeah.
In order to draw it, or it was more like, okay, I'm not expecting to draw this sword. It was a larger sword, typically reserved for outdoor use, and
This
then
is
you would
the
have a
seed.
shorter. you'd have a shorter sword to use for when you were like, if you needed to quickly defend yourself.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I get exactly what he's saying. Yeah, the back scabbard is like aesthetically pleasing, but it's impossible to draw a sword that way.
Yeah, and it's very impractical. But yeah, so he's really famous for hating on back scabbards from a long time ago. But one thing that he pointed out here in this scene was that one is that a sword? Yeah, that's a sword, right? In his hand, I want because it's not definitely not his bow. The other guy behind him has a. I
It,
think he has a sword because this is what
it,
they several of the elves do this a couple of times, including Galadriel, I think, where they balance the sword on the back of their wrist. What's up, Jedi? How's it going? And it just I don't know. It just seems weird because it's like, why would you fight like that? Like, why would you fight like with your sword pointing like forward like that? And like to stab forward would be super weird because you'd have to like rub it off of your wrist. But the other really funny thing that Shad pointed out in this particular scene with this guy is that if you're in a cave or like a dark area holding a torch and then like in front of your face and then you want to like look at like it's really hard to do that because the torch basically lights up your entire face and you can't see behind it, right? So you have to hold torches like off like to the side, like way not like
off to
directly
the side.
yeah, not directly between your face and the thing that you're trying to look at.
Yeah, because then it's also, I mean, it's really bright. You're in a dark space. It's gonna blind you to anything that you're looking at. Like you hold it off to the side, or
If anything, you're
even,
lighting yourself up for other people much more than you're lighting up a room for you to view. And
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah, that was what he pointed out here. He's like, yeah, so this guy he's just basically making sure that he can't see anything in the room. And of course there's a troll that comes around and then Guy Ladriel. Well, so all of the other elf warriors just stand around getting hit. Which is just astounding to me, right? Because elves are fantastic warriors, but these guys, not these guys. They just stand around getting hit by the troll, even though hobbits defeated a troll in motherfucking Lord of the Rings. These guys apparently can't, but except for Galadriel, who jumps off of somebody else's sword and then does a bunch of like fucking spinning sword hits and shit, and basically it doesn't get touched by the troll at all and kills it basically single-handedly. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense.
we have very
from
Mary Sue.
from what I've heard, oh yeah, she's a big Mary Sue.
These guys are hunters, and apparently they're supposedly their hunting has been going very unsuccessfully. Now, just from looking at them alone, it seems that their hunting is going very successfully. Like, look at those fucking, what are the antlers that are on that? Like, they clearly. The sword
Yeah,
jump
those
was
things are
kind
the
of.
size of like fucking wings. Those are enormous.
Yeah, so very clearly they've killed some animals, but see, this is the weird part is that there's a lot of dialogue that like people say stuff or like there's voiceovers like narrating stuff, but it has no connection to what's going on the screen. Where they're like, oh, these guys they're unsuccessful at hunting. I was like, well, they have a bunch of skins and huge antlers and shit. Like they didn't just pick them up off the ground. Like they were very clearly successful at hunting. And
Yeah, what the fuck does successful look like if that's
yeah, if that's unsuccessful. Yeah, there's the Hardfoots, the the hobbits, which were fine, apparently.
I've heard that they are extremely like a lot of people have been saying that they're like bizarrely these like Irish stereotypes more or less. They're like all
Yeah,
Irish for some reason.
yeah, they're well, a couple of them do speak with Irish brogues, and they seem to have like the witticisms of like like a small Irish town sort of deal, and yeah, I mean it's okay, I guess. There's not really a lot going on there. I know that like Gandalf, who's not Gandalf, I don't say he's Gandalf, but just like old wizard looking guy, falls like from a comet at the end of
Not
the
sure
first
if they
episode.
can. I'm not sure if they can say that he's Gandalf.
Yeah.
They only got the rights to certain things, which is extremely funny. They didn't really even get the rights to like the source material for the stuff that they're trying to use for this. They're just kind of piecing shit together at this point.
Yeah. Were Tolkien's elves vegetarians? I don't, at least I don't recall anything in the books, but I haven't read the books since I was in middle school.
It's never explicitly stated that they are, but we do know just based on like I guess sort of the background that you get from like the Hobbit, especially, uh, and like a little bit. I think a little bit. There's a little bit in the Lord of the Rings where they talk about some of the food. There's a lot about food in the Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you guys have noticed,
Okay.
but the elves, I believe.
Well, to be fair, like almost
Aren't?
anything that's in the Lord of the Rings, there's a lot of it, because Tolkien is just extremely
Yeah.
descriptive. Like, you know, if there's
I
a
think
hill,
they aren't. Oh yeah, he's gonna tell you what's under it. He's gonna tell you what's on top of it. He's gonna tell you what's
all
around
the
it.
shades of green that are on the hill, you know, every single one of them. And so yeah, you'll know everything about that fucking hill. So yeah, if there's a meal in there, it's not like
So
he's just gonna be like, and then they had a good time. Next scene.
Yeah. Well, so the general consensus is that they are not strictly vegetarian, but that in The Hobbit, especially when the dwarves kind of show up in Rivendell and eat with them, that the elves pretend to be vegetarian to fuck with them. Like they don't give them any meat. They just give them a bunch of vegetables and stuff just to fuck with the dwarves because again, you know, they don't really like each other that much. And so that was a funny little bit because yeah, I think they talk about there were other times where like there were other elves that had consumed meat and stuff like that. So they're like maybe it's a cultural thing with just like the Rivendell elves because there's a lot of different um, I guess subgroups. And but they said the general consensus is that they're not and they literally just fucking with the dwarves for fun, which I think is funny because it
I think
seems like
that's
something that
great.
the elves would do.
Yeah. No, that totally sounds like something that they would do because they're very, obviously regal. And well, that's the thing is that these elves are not very, I don't know, just regal or anything.
They're
And
not
just,
regal. They look like people wearing costumes that somebody made from fabric that they bought at fucking Joann's.
right? Yeah.
Like the costuming is bad. The costuming is
Where is
extremely bad from what I've
where was the
seen.
armor here? There was one. So also for
Even if
one,
it's
I
not
think
horrible.
isn't Galadriel like way older than Elrond? No, is it? Who the fuck is he trying
Elrond's
to be? No, not Elrond.
Elrond's half human, so he's
Not Elrond.
youngish.
There's Gil-galad was the other guy. Motherfucking. Remember who he's supposed to be.
See, and this is like a key problem that people have noted about the show is that they're not good at reminding you who people are. They might say their name once and then from then on like you never fucking know what their name is again. And so people are losing track of like what characters are supposed to be who, and especially with something like this where this is stuff that you don't get into
yeah, it is
from The
Elrond, right?
Hobbit
Okay,
and The
that's
Lord
what
of
I
the
thought.
Rings. This is like Silmarillion stuff, and deep lore and crap. So like this is people's names that a lot of people just don't know.
Yeah. And but anyway, yeah, so I believe she's supposed to be way older for one. And her kid is around his age, if I remember correctly, right? But yeah, anyway, yeah, all the characters are just super, I don't know, strangely done in terms, at least they're supposed to be like their other counterparts. Gil-galad, I think, is one of the few people that they said was kind of portrayed pretty well in terms of like his look and in terms of his temperament and how he acts and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of writing in this that just sounds fantasy-like, but doesn't have the same gravitas that a Tolkien, work actually has. Yeah, she's a lot older than him. Right. Okay. Cool. Jedi. Yeah, I've read the Silmarillion, and she's a lot older than him. That's what I thought, because I thought that she had a daughter or a kid who was around Elrond's age instead. And like, look at this armor. This armor looks fucking terrible.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. So it. I didn't watch it, but like looked over these guys reviewing it, looked over a couple of other people who were reviewing it, and yeah, the consensus is it just is as bad as people were expecting. There's some scenes that visually look pretty striking because they did spend a lot of fucking money on this shit. Like I think it was like 50 million per episode, sort of deal. And yeah, so there's parts that look pretty good on screen, but in terms of just the writing itself and the characters and all that kind of development, it was just as bad as we thought it would be. And so the only
Blows my mind that they spent like over $1 billion on this show. There's nothing that I'm seeing from the show, even the stuff that looks good, that says this is something that we put $1 billion into. Like, what the fuck does $1 billion buy?
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it gives you some good visual effects, but yeah, the costuming fucking is terrible, and the writing terrible. And of course, the only thing that the mainstream news is worried about is the racist backlash because people can't see brown dwarves and brown elves and all that. And it's like, you know what? The actual black elves and brown elves, I could kind of buy. I can see that. Whatever. The chick should have a beard though. Like that's one thing.
If they weren't fucking cowards, she would have a beard. Like, I don't even give a shit that much about there being a black dwarf. But the fact that she doesn't have a beard, they're cowards.
Yeah. No, definitely so. Because I mean, yeah, but black elves just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because so far as I can remember, the sun is fairly young in this world, right? Like the sun hasn't even been out that long. And also, well, so the sun hasn't been out that long. The elves live to be so fucking old that like evolutionary development would take way longer than it would in humans because like evolutionary development takes generations to happen, right? People die off and other people survive. Those traits get passed on. It's an intergenerational process of going from person with one particular set of features to like people with another particular set of features, skin color or fucking eye distance from each other or whatever fucking features that you want to talk about changes over time. All of that shit takes generations upon generations to happen. And so sun barely came out, not a lot of generations of elves go by because they just keep living. Like at what point did people evolve to have darker skin to combat being out in the sun all the time? And then like why would an elf even need that defense mechanism? Because they don't die and they don't get affected, they don't get skin cancer. So
Getting cancer, yeah. Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense on its face. I mean, I guess, again, I'm being a bit of a purist, but this is all based on European folklore. Like, this is all based on European folklore. I mean, yes, it is ultimately Tolkien's interpretation of things, where he, turned it into an actual story. But a lot of this is based on European folklore. Elves are not a thing in African culture. Like they're a European folklore thing. That's where he pulled them from. And I'm sorry, people can get pissed off, but it's like Europe is majority white, or it was anyway. Uh, and when he wrote it, he's basing it off of, again, folklore, where a lot of people were majority white, and it's like it's not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker or anything, but it seems like a stupid thing to change for the sake of respectability politics. It really does. It seems like a dumb thing. And it's like the only reason you would do it in the first place is if you think it matters. and it makes some kind of huge difference, and it really doesn't. It just kind of makes you look stupid and pandering.
Yeah, like there's this whole mantra that goes around, you see it fucking everywhere, which is representation matters. And it's just like it doesn't. It does not in the way that they mean. You know, it's not like me seeing Mexicans and Latinos on TV does not make me feel better about myself. Like I don't need like a show like that has Mexicans in it just for me to be like, okay, now I know that world thinks I'm okay or something. Like it doesn't make any
It's
fucking
like if you
sense.
can't identify with a character, if you can't identify with a character just because they don't, look like you or even espouse the same or come from the same cultural background, I think that's extremely goofy.
Yeah, well, I mean, for one, like I'm, really into anime and Japanese TV and even like Korean live action dramas, like their detective shows and shit like that. And there's zero Latino people like in Japan at all. Like I've never heard of a fucking Latino in Japan at all. Uh,
That
and
makes
uh,
sense. Yeah.
and same with Korea, right? Like you never hear about a Mexican guy in Korea or whatever. And like I watch these shows and there's not a single Latino guy, and never at any point in it was like I'm thinking, I wish that Koreans would hire more Latinos so that I can see my it's Latinx fuck you wager. don't come don't come into my podcast telling me to say that bullshit. No, but seriously, yeah, it's like I don't watch those shows and go, oh, I need me a Mexican in this K drama, or in this anime, I need a guy speaking Spanish. Like, no, I don't need that. Like, there's plenty of good shows with Latinos in them. There's fucking the telenovelas, right? The fucking soaps, the daytime soaps, that shit. Like, we have our own TV. We have our own programming that we make for our people. We don't need Americans or Japanese or Koreans or anybody else making this shit for us or insisting that like they make a space for us in the representation table, or it's like, oh, I didn't have a character that looked like me on Glee, therefore the world is ignoring me. It's like, no, like I don't need nobody on Glee that looks like me. I don't need nobody in fucking know, whatever it is, American Idol or none of that. Like this representation bullshit. Don't it. It's just like I would just like to see competent people doing good work, good art, because that represents me more than some motherfucker who happens to be named Sanchez. Doesn't matter. At least not in the past. You just allow us to make art that we want to make, then that's good enough. We don't need all this fucking hand holding and handouts and coddling. So oppressed that we nation out. Little little Marias, little Jose's can grow up feeling good about themselves. Don't treat us. This is fucking insulting. And so yeah, this is what the and so they had the Amazon paused the reviews, right? They don't allow you to
Oh
review.
yeah, they completely shut him down. Well,
Yeah.
they also own IMDb, which I did not know. Actually, I admit that I did not know that Amazon had acquired IMDb like years and years and years ago.
Yeah,
And
I was
so
sort of
like
like
half
tangentially
of
aware, but
yeah, and of course, all the anything that's not a 6-star review on IMDb is now gone. And then they've shut down any other reviews on stuff like Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, for the show because they claim that they were getting review bombed by people who were just doing it maliciously, and it's like, no, people are telling you what they think about your garbage show. Like,
yeah,
this is why
it's
reviews exist, and now that it's biting you in the ass, you don't want to turn it off, and it's like, well, fuck you. Like, people are still gonna talk about your show sucking just because they can't go online. Like, I don't know a lot of people that necessarily get their. I mean, I don't. I know there are people that do. They go online, they look at the review, they say, "Oh, well, most people say it's good, so I'm gonna." I don't know. I don't really do that. I don't know a lot of people who do that. You know, I talk to a few of my friends, and I know a few people that, generally speaking, we share the same tastes, or even if we don't share the same tastes, they are a pretty good judge of what a good movie is, um, and stuff like that. And then of course, I have that one friend that's just got really wild music taste too, but movie taste, and so I let him throw me a curveball every once in a while, but for the most part, that's how I, gauge whether or not I'm gonna like something. I'll still go see stuff sometimes. Obviously, I'm not gonna watch this out of principle, but I'll still go see stuff that I think I'm gonna hate sometimes. I won't go see it in the movie theater or anything. I'll go hang out at somebody's house, or I'll, pirate it or whatever. But I mean, most of the time, I get my movie reviews by talking to people whose opinion I actually care about, instead of a bunch of random strangers, or worse, these fucking paid critics that had the 100% up score on Rotten Tomatoes before this came out, and then it immediately plummeted to 37% for the audience score. So it's like everybody knows that critics don't know shit. A lot of them get paid, or compensated in other ways to say that stuff is good, um, or I mean, they're just compensated as being thought of as a socially conscious, good guy. If they review certain things to be good and stuff like that, they're rewarded by their influence. They're shaping society by doing this kind of shit. Stuff's fucking useless to me.
Yeah, well, because the reviewers aren't media critics. They're not media critics in the way that we were used to think of them, in terms of examining plot and characters, and talking about the actual storytelling of the thing. Instead, they're just writers who are creating puff pieces, and they're there to make articles, right? They're not there to actually inform people about media and content, and its quality. They're there to simply have an article published, and
Yeah,
so
9 times out of 10, it's to produce something that somebody will read so that it will generate clicks so that they will get ad revenue. They don't even care if you read it, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and Jedi saying the argument I see at the bottom of the page there is the most useless justification I've ever seen. And so yeah, they're in this article that I pulled up, that's obviously talking about the quote unquote racist backlash of the Lord of the Rings, and it touched upon. So they try to explain it to the people who don't get it. They say, well, the argument from the racists is that, just like basic paraphrasing what you said, is that like Tolkien didn't view his Middle Earth as having a bunch of people of color, a bunch of minorities and stuff, and was like, yeah, well, he's talking about medieval Europe, at least basing it off of medieval Europe. There's it was mostly white people back then, and very white people. Like we're talking, like you got the was it the Angles and the Saxons? The Anglo and Saxons, they had fucking like Scandinavians. Like these were very white people in terms of like not like very white in like the Aryan like German sense of like they're very white. Yeah, it's good, but I'm like saying like pale and like very, very
Yeah, they were white folks. They'd be considered white people.
yeah,
You put them next to somebody who's more brown. They're considered white people. They're they, and you get really down to it. And you start splitting hairs and going through the genealogy and stuff. I mean, they're generally all gonna be Caucasian because they're from the same areas.
yeah. And but yeah, near the bottom of this, they say well well Tolkien describes Harfoots as having browner skin, in contrast with the descendants of the hobbits. It's like, well, yeah, some white people have browner skin than other white people, and nobody really gives a shit about the Harfoots being not white. I don't think I've ever heard anybody complain about that shit, other than the fact that some of them just kind of look weird. But there's more of a problem with the elves. I think like not even the dwarves really it matters that much, what race they are, except for the women should have beards, because that's like very fucking explicitly stated, not only in the books, obviously it's in the books, but they even said it directly in the movies, right? They're like Gimli.
There's like a whole bit about it.
Exactly. And so, and just dwarves and beards, like that's a thing. That's just, they go together.
It's I mean, in Tolkien's work, obviously it's a thing, but then you have people that then borrow from Tolkien's work and stuff, and dwarves as a cultural thing are all about the beards, man. The beards are a big deal. Beards are a huge deal. Even games or media where they don't all have beards have a reason for them not having beards. That kind of goes back to, okay, yeah, it's a cultural thing, but this is a specific case that's different. I
Yeah.
I mean, they literally talk about the men and the women dwarves being so alike in appearance that people can't tell them apart, you know? So they're not just like kind of a beard or a feminine beard. These women got beards, like big old beards, and they look like dudes. Again, this seems like a really weird uh it's like it I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a kind of person who gives a shit about this kind of stuff, but it's like you would think that bearded women would be like a big deal, or at least like a oh yeah, that's awesome that these people could get into. But again, just not there. Like, can you imagine how shocking, especially in Tolkien's time, the idea of bearded women? I mean, they were in freak shows when that was
Yeah.
still like an acceptable thing.
Yeah.
But like just the idea of like an entire race of people and all the women have beards, like that was supposed to be a, bizarre cultural thing, like kind of funny. And they just kind of didn't even throw it in there. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. You're sitting on a gold mine here and this is what you do with it?
Yeah. How could you not? How could you not give the female dwarves beards? That's just so
I mean,
famous and so
it's
well
just more,
known.
yeah, it's just further proof that, it's infuriating that a company, somebody producing a movie like this could have so much wealth, both in material to reference and go off of, and you have all this, and then you have $1 billion, like a fucking insane amount of money, and you still can't produce something good because you're too focused on shit like this.
And even like Jedi pointed out, the justification or the rebuttal here is practically non-existent. Because they point out that supposedly people are claiming black people didn't exist in medieval England.
Oh
Linked to
yeah,
here,
that's
which
the claim. Just not
it's
not that they were rare.
yeah. Let's see if this person actually, maybe they do. They link to somebody. Why are there black people, Asian people, or any other race and white in the Lord of the Rings new series Ring of Power? Fucking black person was living in medieval times. Fuck cultural appropriation until it comes to white people. Fuck. Yeah. Okay. So like they're saying, yeah, what black people were living in medieval England. Uh, that's pretty fine because they had what, the Moors, were around obviously in northern Africa, and then there was they obviously traded, or well, not even depends on the time frame or the years or whatever, but there was either peace with the Islamic nations or not. But there was relations with Islamic nations, so there was obviously non-white people around medieval Europe. But so far as just like living in villages alongside white Europeans and shit like that, I don't think it was particularly common. I don't think that it
Yeah, I mean
was actually a thing
it's
that you
totally
saw
fair to say that
super often.
right, yeah, well, it's totally fair to say that they knew of them. They probably had interaction with them. They probably had trade. Like that's absolutely normal. But the idea that yeah, there were just like tons of black people running around medieval Europe isn't supported by history. It's not supported by anything that we know. It's not, it's just not. It doesn't make any sense, And again, we're not talking about we're not talking about medieval Europe. We're talking about a fantasy world that is based on European folklore. So again, for me, the argument just doesn't make sense.
So of course they fall back on um it's a misplaced belief that Tolkien's work was somehow deeply rooted in the white experience. Well, not like the white experience, but the European experience, sure. I would say
Yeah,
so.
that makes sense.
There's very culturally European book that he made. And then they followed up with, also the books are made up. So the idea is like, so we can just make up that black people are in there. We can make up whatever we want. And it's like, well, you can, but it doesn't make it
Then it's
good.
not that story anymore. Well, it's also, yeah, it's not Tolkien's story anymore. Like, you can make up whatever the fuck you want about whatever you want, sure, but now it has ceased to become the idea that you started with, and now it's become something else. Like, okay, make it something else. Make it yours. Nobody is going to get pissed off if you make your own fantasy show and it's I mean, if it's a ripoff, somebody's going to be like, this is kind of a ripoff. This is just Tolkien shit, but with black elves. But people who want to watch it will watch it, and people who don't won't. And in the process, you're not destroying somebody else's life work and fucking bastardizing something else because you can't make something that is popular enough, you know? I mean, I'm pretty sure that if they wouldn't have pumped $1 billion into an original you know, show based off of something not Tolkien or not, you know, guaranteed to just kind of hit a base mark of, you know, this many views and shit. Like, they wouldn't have put $1 billion into it because they know that they can't be successful by appealing to this very, very small minority of people who are obsessed with this political bullshit getting shoved into everything. Most
Yeah.
people don't care about this stuff. They really don't.
Yeah, that
Thank
was
God.
another really big, like, now that you mentioned political bullshit, also that was another really big theme in the show, was that, like, so in the show, Galadriel's brother gets killed fighting Sauron, which I hear does not happen in the Silmarillion. And
No, it doesn't happen at all.
and so then she has this like hard on for finding Sauron and defeating him, and she's been doing it for centuries. And like those guys, those elves that were in the cave with her, yeah, I think it was a cave, and they're all looking. They were all under her command, and they're looking for Sauron, and then like they find like a sigil, that like a sign of Sauron in cave in some shit. And then so she's like, aha, see, he's back, or he's, you know, around, he's still alive, so we need to go find him and fight him and stuff. And then the rest of the elves are like, nah, we don't want to. Or like, well, the ones that are with her are like, yeah, this is like really messed up and I'm scared and I want to leave. And then so they like leave, and when they go back to where Elrond and Gil-galad are at. And then so Gil-galad just straight up doesn't believe her, I guess, and he's like, nah, they're not back. Sauron's not around. He's still dead. So he should go sail off to Valinor or whatever. And so there was a really big theme within like the episode, was just like that he was all like, oh, you know, he's back and stuff, and everybody else was like, nah, I don't believe, not really. And then,
Nobody will believe the women.
yeah, and so basically it's just like a bunch of the elf characters acting really fucking dumb, and then she acting like, why doesn't anybody listening to me? And like that's, yeah, like a really big portion of her being supposedly correct and everybody else being supposedly wrong. And but like Elrond and Gil-galad are incredibly wise, you know, canonically, right? They're supposed to be really fucking smart. They're like the leaders of a race of people and shit. And so it's just really amusing that they just made it so that like everybody just acts super fucking thick, and then she, you know, just knows everything, and like nobody believes her, and like gotta be like, oh, why doesn't anyone believe me? And so she acts super fucking bratty and annoying. It's super irritating. But so
Yeah, I can imagine.
the other Lord of the Rings thing that I wanted to touch upon was the premiere event. Did you hear about that?
Mm-mm.
Ooh, this was a good one then. Good. I'm glad to share this with you. So there was a premiere event. I think it was in New York. Oh no, this was in England. Oh yeah, Leicester Square. So I think that's in, is that London. Yeah, London. Okay, so yeah, there was some premiere event in London where you know, have like a whole fucking glamorous event going on, and there was people who won tickets to go attend the thing. And so these fans who won tickets, they show up, and they supposedly was supposed to be like a red carpet, but it they well they did have a red carpet, but then where the fans who won tickets to it were supposed to go are these like little cordoned off like pen areas. You know, like they had like those little fucking barricades that you see like at parades and shit. And so they were like these little squares where they just like had them stand, and there was like the whole event was going on and shit, and there wasn't like any speakers or anything that was like being directed towards the fan uh pens areas or anything. So they were just, they didn't get to hear like any part of that, like a part of like the event or like any of the shit that was going on like on stage. And then they like watched the show like on this fucking big screen that was like off in the distance, and it took like 3 hours or some shit from the point where they like arrived and like checked in to the point where they actually watched the show. And so
Jesus.
there was like no uh there was no like water like station or anything like in these pens, and people couldn't bring any food in, and yeah, it was just awful all around. So they basically, these people
So
got stuck in these pens
so they just hung
waiting
out
around for
for
hours.
3 hours
Yeah,
with no food or fucking anything?
yeah,
Jesus Christ. Like, and that's something they won? Like, they didn't pay to go, they won.
yeah.
Like, what was the prize? I don't understand.
On Twitter, fans voiced their disappointment with one user remarking, "Thought we won a ticket, not signed up for a shift." Yeah, and so basically it was they were being used as props to, you know, be part of like the you know, when they like pan over or when they, you know, do these like background shots or whatever, and so you can see fans in the back. And yeah, there weren't any seats in these pens either. They were just standing in them. And yeah, it was apparently very awful.
Yeah, that sounds fucking awful. That sounds terrible.
There's a there was pointless applause at the end, as there was nobody that worked on the show there to hear the applause. And so yeah, they like would goad them into applauding, you know, be like, "Oh yeah, guys, it's time to clap," you know, blah blah. And so yeah, they would get the whole crowd like
They're
clapping
so funny
along.
there. Oh boy.
So yeah, it was a fucking disaster and really fucked up the fans there. And the other one that the fucking She-Hulk. And did you see any of this at all? The She-Hulk show?
Unfortunately, I didn't watch it, but I've gotten the trickle down of snippets of the shit show.
Yeah, that was another amazing one to me, especially that first episode where they had her do that random like, "Oh, I'm a woman and I have to hide my anger infinitely more than you, Bruce." Dude, you guys, how far up your own
I did see
ass?
the meme made me laugh. She's like, "I've been through so much more, and I've had to hide my anger so much, and blah blah blah." And he's like, "My father beat my mother to death in front of me."
Yeah. Seriously, like, because these, you can tell that they're like she's just saying stuff that the writers wish they could say to people, and it's like you can't be talking to Bruce Banner this fucking way. Like, this is fucking stupid. Like, the guy who spends so many years battling the Hulk persona within him to the point where he literally attempted suicide and was depressed about the fact that it didn't work, and she gets catcalled, therefore she knows what it's like.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
No, it was so dumb. And yeah, the rest of the show, you know, they had the scene just like in Star Wars where you know, the older person with the more experience is trying to teach the younger one, and then they just do everything better naturally without fucking trying. They're just a million times better. And then yeah, Megan the Stallion comes on and I guess twerks with She-Hulk for a bit, which looks so dumb. Like when you saw like how her hair was floating around and stuff, it just looks so fake and so awful.
It's bad. I mean, on its yeah, again, like the idea is just so fucking cringe. I mean, it's typical fucking Marvel. Like this is their shit. Like this is their whole stick now. Is everything is like they can't do anything they can't do anything serious. Like they really can't. They just everything's got to be this goofy like will that happen, moment or and
Yeah,
yeah, Megan the
everybody's has
Stallion.
that mix of like the confidence and quippiness of Iron Man and fucking Captain America like, combined
Everything's
together.
everything's Deadpool, everything's Deadpool. It's all gonna be goofy now.
Yeah, and so because also She-Hulk in the comics does a little bit of fourth wall breaking too, and so they decided to integrate that into the show as well. So she like, talks directly to the audience at several points. It's very fucking cringe. Like, I heard the comics were semi decent and they had some like funny elements to them, but that shit is not in this show at all. And yeah, it's just as bad as we thought it would. Well, the what was the other one? The Game of Thrones prequel though I hear is decent. It's okay. I don't know if I want to watch it. I'm just not. I'm over Game of Thrones. After what they fucking did to the end of the show. And so when they announced that they were gonna do a prequel show, I was just like, I don't care. It could be
I think
good.
that's how a lot of people felt about it. I mean, that's
I
fair.
mean,
Like with the way it ended, I never got super into it, which I'm thankful for. But my wife watched a lot of it, so I ended up watching a lot of it, just kind of like not even with her, but like in the same room. I would usually be doing something else or watching something else. But I mean, I saw a lot of it, and then yeah, seeing what happened with the last season was just like, I mean, it's fucking horrible.
it was a fucking train wreck. Like it was bad. And again, I heard about it before I had watched it. And so I thought, well, it'll be bad, but how bad could it be? And oh boy, was I unpleasantly surprised at how bad it was. And so, the new show, the prequel show or whatever, I don't think is being written by D&D and Dave.
Oh no, because I mean they rushed through the last season so that they could start doing Star Wars, and then the last season was so bad that they lost their contract to do
Sorry.
Star Wars, which I thought was extremely funny. That's
Yeah, that was
exactly
so
what they
good.
deserve.
Yes, and so the story or whatever is based off of the prequel book that George R. R. Martin wrote. Oh, I think with somebody else. I forget he had a co-writer with it. But either way, so like it's based off of material that's actually something that George R. R. Martin wrote. So has the potential to be better. But overall, I'm just over fucking Game of Thrones. And so I decided not to check it out. I may decide to check it out later, but for now, yeah, I think I'm a pass on that one. But that one I don't have as big of a prejudice against, or like I don't expect it necessarily to be terrible. I just wasn't into it. I just was I think I'll pass. But yeah, She-Hulk and Rings of Power definitely bomb. Fucking bad. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and continue not watching them. What else we got here going on? Bank of America decides that they're gonna be loaning out home loans to Black people and Latinos because we just need us so much help getting homes that we can't be expected to have good credit scores like them white people. And so yeah, they decided they would invest a bunch of money in discriminatory against whites who want their loans. Instead, they're gonna go after us and hopefully give us loans. Now, the racial element of it is dumb, right? It's fucking stupid. But the bit that gets me about this whole deal is just the fact that this plan was something that was already that had happened back in like the late 90s and the early 2000s. I think it was Clinton who, one of the first, or not one of the first, but at least in that time, had started this this program or this push to get poor people owning homes. And so they basically loosened up the loan restrictions, and then lowered interest rates so that that people would get more loans, get more home loans specifically. And what that ended up causing was a big bubble in the housing market, because so when you artificially lower interest rates and you also artificially encourage loans that would normally not happen, then it basically it's a smaller version of the Austrian business cycle theory, where you restructure the economy, whereas like normally a certain amount of money would go towards building homes. Then now you're flooding the industry with a bunch of money that is coming from loans and from speculation rather than from demand, actual organic demand. And then so when the construction companies and the contracting companies go out and they see all this money being invested in, and then they go out and build the homes based off of the money that's being invested in. And what happens is now, like, these people who took out these loans, they're going to default on them at much higher rates than people who got loans legitimately would have. They're going to default at a much higher rate because they were part of that program, because normally they wouldn't qualify for a loan. Right. Normally they wouldn't qualify. There was probably a reason that they wouldn't have qualified for it. And so maybe some of them, they just didn't get the loans because, they didn't want to be given a chance, or, the bank didn't want to take a chance on them. And maybe they really would have paid back the loan and done everything correctly. But in terms of like the numbers game, right, is that like people who normally get rejected for loans normally get rejected because the lender sees that it's a bad investment. And so if you start pushing for these people who are bad loan investments to receive these loans anyway, then it means that there's going to be a much higher default rate. And then so now all that money that was invested into the housing market, because there was all this money being flooded into the housing market, now some of that shit is coming back to the bank as a defaulted loan. So the actual demand for homes and for real estate in general is actually much lower than the market made it seem, with all that money being flooded into it. And so then all of those investments, that like construction and shit like that, it doesn't get realized fully to the point that they had thought, because a lot of that investment and a lot of that supposed demand was actually fake. It was actually just being propped up by the government. And then so when that fake demand can't be sustained by real investment and by real companies and stuff, then that means that there's a bunch of excess unsold homes and unsold apartments and apartment buildings and things like that people had invested into, but then didn't recoup and didn't see the fruits of those investments. And then that's when you get the bubble bursting, right? And so the whole process of the lending out to people who don't deserve it and all that is a bubble in the making, right? That is a bubble being inflated over the course of years. And eventually that bubble pops, because what's being put into that bubble is fake. You know, it's not real, and so it will just deflate when the time comes. And so, you know, that's what happened in 2008. Was among other businesses, or among other sectors, right? The housing sector was one huge one, but many other sectors were given the same sort of treatment. And so, you know, this whole process that led up to the housing bubble bursting in the late 2000s, they're just doing it again. You know, that's the amazing part. Is like, okay,
Yeah,
so
it's just being,
so we,
it's just being repeated.
so we have all this whole process that like led to one of the biggest fucking disasters in the entire fucking country, and people like me explained it to you exactly how it happened, and they decide that they're just going to do the same fucking idea over again 20 years later, and do not expect the same fucking shit to happen. But yeah, so
I mean, maybe they. I mean, maybe they do. I mean, maybe the main driving factor here is just getting out as many predatory loans as they possibly can before the bubble pops. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know how they expect it not to do the exact same thing that happened last time. I don't see where the payoff is.
well, that's the thing about
For
banks, right? Is that they're able to do this because these loans are federally guaranteed, and
yeah, they get bailed out too.
and then they get bailed out, and they know that they'll get bailed out because they always do.
When they got bailed out last time, yeah, they got bailed out last time. I remember there was a lot of criticism. Was it Obama's first term that there were a lot, you know, that the big pop really happened, and they were talking about, you know, he's bailing out all these banks and stuff.
Yeah, because a lot of it happened in 2008, and then subsequent years
Yeah.
is when they were trying to fix everything. And so
Mhm.
so yeah, there's a bunch of bank bailouts and the auto industry bailouts. And so yeah, you can expect more of that in like another 10 years or so. So
Hooray!
so yeah, we're gearing up to have us another housing crisis pretty soon. Well, not pretty soon, but in the coming years.
Extremely exciting.
And last on the list we got is Biden talking to us about the future of our democracy in front of his blood wall, which it just looked so bad. Like, I mean, I know it's like a really easy or like really just shallow thing to nitpick on, but come on, like how could you not check this out
I don't know.
beforehand?
I wouldn't necessarily call it shallow. I mean, just the idea that it happened at all, that somebody said, "Yeah, this is fine. Go ahead." The optics are so fucking horrifically bad, and like anybody who looked at this would have known that they were going to go horrifically bad. It really just kind of again shows them how either desperate or out of touch. It's got to be one of the two. They're either really fucking desperate or they're completely out of touch to how things are going for them right now in terms of like how people actually view this administration and just kind of like their political side in general.
Yeah. So I figured we'd watch the speech. It's only 25 minutes long, and it yeah, we'll have something to talk about for a little bit.
I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America. Independence
Oh, fuck
Hall
off.
in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is where America made its Declaration of Independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago with an idea unique among nations, that in America, we're all created equal. This is where the United States Constitution was written and debated.
Look, why? Okay, so in terms of like presidential speeches and you know, giving presentations and stuff, he's so bad at it. He's not a good public speaker, like in any sense.
So
'Cause-
fucking boring.
because like you could have somebody talk about how much history is you know in the fucking Yeah, it's emperor speech time, exactly. You could easily comment on the history of America and the founding of the country and all this stuff, and and actually uh and actually make it sound uh impressive. Right, the founding of the country is not like, sure, I'm an anarchist and I don't think that we should have like a United States of America and a federal government and stuff, but like what the founding fathers did was fucking crazy. They did some fucking like nuts ass shit back then. Like obviously they completely separated from the biggest country in the history of countries at the time. And so it wasn't a small feat. It was a pretty like epic story and a pretty significant event in world history and American history, obviously. And I've heard like historians and people talk about different events in terms of like the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War, and they can make it sound very entertaining and very engaging. And this dude is not. You just are waiting for him to stop talking the moment he starts.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
not good.
where we
He doesn't
set in
hold
motion
attention very well. He's not
the
a very
most
good speaker.
No, no, not at all. Because he always sounds like he's like trying, like pleading with somebody who doesn't believe him. And so
He
he's
does. He has a very I'm like he implores, but it's not even really. I mean, he kind of slogs through it too. It's kind of one of those like, yeah, somebody's begging you to see things from their point of view, but the arguments that they're making, are not genuine. They don't actually believe the things that they're saying. They're just trying to appeal to your sensibilities.
yeah, no, it reads or it feels very much of somebody who's trying to make like who's trying to convince themselves at the same time that they're trying to convince you.
Yeah. Well, it's his being reasonable voice. Come
Come
on,
on,
Jack.
man.
Come on, Jack. I mean, hell no. Come on. This is common sense. Yeah, come on. You're like, dude, fuck off.
Is the his version of the now don't get it twisted. It's not nearly as good as that.
extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever known. With three simple words: we the people. We the people. These two documents and the ideas they embody, equality and democracy, are the rock upon which this nation is built.
Now, now that's not wrong, but also like was we the people like that significant? I mean, it's just so tiring because he's trying to be deep, but then this is like the Lord of the Rings bit all over again, where they're trying to be deep, but then they just like pick the weirdest things to harp on to, like, it was really important that we had we the people in it because we the people. Okay,
I
we
get his angle here. Like I get what he's saying, and I mean, it's a tired argument, but I get it. He's appealing to the democracy, right? The consent of the governed, which is, I mean, I get the idea. It's a great ideal, and it's one that I used to believe in, but it's clearly not the case. Like it's not the case, and it hasn't been for. I mean, if it was ever true, it hasn't been for a long time. Certainly not in any of the amount of time that someone like you or I or even Joe fucking Biden has been alive. It it's just it rings very hollow. And
yeah, but
also, you have to consider that the time when this was written. I mean, I know everybody. Well, at the time when it was written, I don't think people necessarily understand how radically different people's. I guess I want to say cultural feelings towards the government were, and like what its position was in their lives when this kind of stuff was written. I mean, when people talk about balkanizing the United States, that was like, before they started, making the federal government and all that shit. I mean, that was like the fucking ideal for what a lot of these people were looking for.
Well,
I
yeah,
live
well,
in my
because I
state.
mean,
You live in yours.
well, yeah, because even back then, like, we call countries states, right? And that wasn't something that's a relatively modern thing. Like they viewed countries as states as well. And then the
Right.
country that they were creating was the United States, where we united several different states together under a banner. But they were still independent states in and of themselves. And well, so like my problem, well, not my problem, but like the reason why I think it's just so strange that like it's like, there was three important words, we the people. And it's like, well, those words don't really say much about like the Declaration of Independence or anything. Like if you said, there's five words, all men were created equal. If he said that, then I'd be like, okay, well, that's a like portion of a speech, right? That is a good little inspiring message or whatever. But it's like, the important words in the Declaration of Independence are we the people. Well, no, that's just sort of like a framing, but that doesn't actually say anything meaningful about the Declaration of Independence. Not so much, like not as much as other phrases with the document, like, well, and so I don't know. I just think it was a badly written portion of the speech there.
I mean, it
How
is.
we
Again,
became
it's appealed to, America's a democracy, and so, I mean, it's kind of the same deal that a lot of people tend to push whenever you bring up objection to the status quo. I guess is the general thing that I'm going for here. Anytime you bring up objection to the status quo, and this is true for conservatives or liberals, because I mean ultimately they're statists. They believe in government. Um, that America is a democracy, or sometimes it's America as a representative democracy, depending on what the argument is at the time. But most of the time, it's that America is a democracy, and so sometimes the minority is going to lose, and you just have to get over it because that's the way it works. And like, given what I have seen in terms of like little clips, um, from this speech of his, it's kind of the theme is that in order to build the country together, we all have to get along. So you're just gonna have to get over the fact that that you're being stomped on and all this other shit. I think it's just that it's that overall appeal to, well, we're a democracy, so you if you're not a team player, then you're against us type shit.
You're a threat to the democracy.
Yeah, you're a threat to the democracy. If you're not with the democracy, then you're against the democracy, which, yeah, okay, that's fair. I am.
I can be a threat to democracy. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
the greatest nation on earth. They're why, for more than 2 centuries, America has been a beacon to the world. But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight,
So two things. The left is pretty cool with nationalism again. I see. That's good. Nationalism is alive and well on the left.
Yeah, I mean, remember the other speech where he basically just said "Make America Great Again" over and over again?
I mean, really, I mean, it's been a very short time since Donald Trump was in office and everybody was like, "Oh my God, ashamed to be in America. America's horrible, blah blah blah." And now we're back to America is the greatest nation on earth again. That's amazing. It's a
Real
hell of a
patriotic,
turnaround.
real quick, yeah.
Yeah, really.
I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it. We must never forget, we the people are the true heirs of the American experiment. that began more than 2 centuries ago. We, the people, have burning inside of each of us the flame of liberty that was lit here at Independence Hall. A flame that lit our way through abolition.
See, he's again just trying to be like an inspirational speech giver, but he's just not good orator.
Trying to be Obama.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying really, really hard to be, Obama, trying to be a great orator, giving this this really I don't know, like heavy emotional speech, but I'm sorry, it doesn't work when you're somebody's tottering, crazy, dementia-riddled grandfather. Like, it just doesn't fucking work.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's like, yo, dude, like all we can think of here is you pinching a little girl's nipples.
Yeah, like, anytime Biden gets on a stage and starts talking, the only thing I can think of is he molested his daughter in the shower.
Like, we don't want to hear from you, buddy.
The Civil War, suffrage, the Great Depression, world wars, civil rights. That sacred flame still burns. Now in our time, as we build an America that is more prosperous, free, and just. That is the work of my presidency, a mission.
It is.
The more prosperous, free, and just.
This is the guy that had a lot to do with Afghanistan and the whole crime bill, the super predators and all that shit. And by enriching the military industrial complex and expanding how many people we have in our prisons, is that helping freedom somehow?
Yeah, we got drone strikes, we got wars, we have economic downturn, we have gas prices going through the roof, we have supply chain shortages. It's like there's so much that's been going wrong, and I don't know where you're getting all this prosperity and freedom from, all this quality and stuff. And he's been so remarkably silent on political violence coming from the left, which is just, how can these people pretend that it's not a big problem? Because
Oops, sorry. There is one clip that I've seen, and this is relevant to this particular point, I think, that I've seen that's pretty great, of him, talking about, like, the political violence in particular, that the country has no place in, that it has no place in the country. Political violence is not okay, blah blah blah, and it's just a mashup of him speaking with basically every huge left-wing riot that's happened since 2016, places burning down, people burning shit down, people beating people to death, all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
Suddenly again, the left is not okay with violent with violent protests or political violence in general. Now that they're in charge, it's not cool anymore.
Oh yeah, I was a super cut of all the riot footage and everything, with harping on about political violence not having a place. And it's like, yo, those places, not only did that political violence happen and everything, but it went, for the most part, almost completely unpunished. And that was
almost
the amazing
completely
part.
Unpunished. In a lot of ways encouraged. They were encouraging people to do this shit. Like, let's call it what it is. Maybe they couldn't say it in so many words because they would have been, immediately
well, yeah, but you still had people that were like shilling the bail funds for rioters and all that shit.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. People like Maxine Waters.
I think AOC did so as well.
Ocasio-Cortez saying that, like, protests are supposed to, and they always have to mitigate it. Protests are supposed to make people uncomfortable. Sure, we're talking about a guy who was pulled out of a truck and beaten to death, I'm sure that he was mildly uncomfortable before he died. I think that's the issue here, is that people are uncomfortable. Yeah, cool. But, they justify it without really justifying it, because, if you address the really specific horrific things that happened during some of these, or like the people that lost their businesses, just regular people who weren't involved at all. I mean, nobody gave a shit about the police station burning down. I didn't care. Fine. Okay, whatever. My money paid for it anyway. Burn it down. But, people losing their homes and their businesses and shit, that's actually a big deal, because in a lot of cases, they're not even insured for stuff like that. Insurance companies won't pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
So you're talking about the working class that the fucking left loves losing everything they have, and they have nothing to do with any of this. And yeah, again, like, they just didn't really do much to punish it, or uh, denounce it, or do literally anything to like stop it. They didn't do anything.
Oh, yeah. People that were just standing around the Capitol building. They're such a threat, but we're not going to talk about any of the other.
But like, it's wild. It wasn't that long ago. People remember, a lot of the people that lost everything they have probably still haven't gotten rebuilt yet. Like, they're
Yeah.
probably still trying to claw their way back from having nothing. People haven't forgotten this shit. I don't understand the amnesia that these people seem to think exists for like your average person. Like, I just like, people remember that this shit happened. We're not stupid. A lot
Yeah,
of it's on the
it's like,
internet.
what's the
And
strategy
goddamn
here?
internet. The goddamn internet's forever. You can look all of this stuff up very quickly online. So I just, yeah, I don't get it. Like, do they legitimately think that people have like forgotten this, or do they really think that they are just such stunning propagandists that they can gaslight people into forgetting that this shit happened?
Yeah, they're just playing the whole look at the birdie fucking game here. But Joe Biden, we remember. Pepperidge Farms remembers. And we're gonna keep bringing it up.
Prime remembers.
I believe in with my whole soul. But first,
You don't have a soul.
we must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans.
Bruh, and I just can't believe that they fucking can't keep this man's name out of their mouth. Because
They
like,
can't. He's been gone for years.
yeah, he hasn't been in office for years. MAGA as like a political movement is, basically dead in the water. Like, I've heard rumors and stuff of him thinking that he might run in 2024, but I don't really see that working. I don't really see that being very successful. I think MAGA, yeah, like I said, MAGA as like a political movement, it's about as popular as the fucking Tea Party at this point. It's over. And like, these guys so desperately want to be persecuted and so desperately want to be on the defensive that they have to make up these fucking boogeymen.
Well, yeah, because I mean, think about it. It's this really funny situation where they were the opposition party for years and years, and now that they're in the fucking driver's seat, they have to wildly shift their strategy, because immediately before this election, it was go, revolt, resist, disrupt everything, and basically don't follow the rules. And now they've got to reverse. Oh, nope. Okay, we're in charge now. So now political violence is bad. We got to toe the line again. We got to do what we're told again. I mean, ACAB has basically just fucking disappeared from the popular vernacular of your average leftist.
Oh yeah, and they quickly denounced the defund the police, of course.
Yeah, like, it's gone. Yeah, don't defund the police, fund them. Like, I mean, that came out of Joe Biden's own damn mouth. And it so now they're having to do this, this quick this fucking U-turn. Like, I legitimately don't think they thought too hard about well, shit. Now what do we do? That we got what we wanted. Okay, now we gotta start. We gotta start talking unity again. Kind of, but like our main thing is we gotta get everybody back in line. We gotta get everybody following the program again. None of this revolution shit. You're not revolutionaries anymore. You're party stooges. Like, we're in charge now.
Yeah, no, it's very transparent, very hollow, ultimately meaningless.
Representing extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be
They're
very
Republicans.
clear.
How extremist could they
Very clear up
possibly
front.
be?
God, I wish it were true too. Like all these fears and uh saber rattling and all that for the threat to our republic, threat to our democracy.
Do you fucking promise?
Yeah, do you promise? Like, I really wish it were true. Oh, you gave me so much hope.
And that's the thing is like, anybody who's paid attention for long enough understands that like the Republican Party is not a party of extremists by any stretch of the imagination. They're not revolutionaries. They are controlled opposition. That's what they are. They are controlled opposition for the most part. And so this idea that they are extremists that are a threat to democracy, it's like, well, no, they kind of depend on democracy. They don't get any votes without the woo scary bad guy to kind of push this along, which again the Democrats also rely on, obviously. Um, they're not a threat to democracy. This is the system that's feeding them. This is the system that's putting them in fucking $90,000 cars and $5,000 suits and, giving their fat wives necklaces to wear. Like, this is their bread and butter. They're not a threat to democracy. They're sitting
Functioning just as
Congress
intended.
members.
It's not at all.
Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat.
And that's another thing that he does a lot is he just talks out both sides of his. It's like, not all the Republicans are like, not even the majority, but the party's dominated by them. And so it's like, well, which is it?
I mean, if the party is dominated by them, then they're not extremists anymore, are they? It doesn't make any sense to call them extremists if the party is dominated by them. They are no longer extreme fringe elements of the party. They are the party. So either your claim is that the Republican Party is now this is what the Republican Party has become. You can't claim that there's a minority of extremists, dominating the party, though. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's yeah.
Because he doesn't want to alienate his Republican, like the Republican base at all, right? He doesn't want to overtly call half of voting population a threat to the democracy, but he also wants to maintain that there's this huge threat to the democracy still.
Yeah, he doesn't want to call them that, but I think he also wants his leftist base to consider them that way, which they do.
Yeah.
Threat to this country. These are hard things, but I'm an American president, not a president of red America, blue America, but of all America. And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful. And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. And they're working right now as I speak in state after state to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself.
This whole idea of like election deniers too, like they didn't spend fucking the years from 2016 to 2020 crying foul about the 2016. They like don't pull like, I mean, they pulled this shit back in 2000 when Bush was elected. Or like fucking who was the other guy at the time? Fucking John Edwards? Whoever, no, whoever was running against Bush Al Gore? It was Al Gore, right? I think when the whole like Florida recount happened and everything like. Don't remember, but anyways, yeah, I want to say it was Al Gore, and he ran up against him, and then there's the whole.
It was. Yeah, sorry, I was looking it up really quick because I was curious myself. It was Al Gore because it was after the Bush election, and everything. You know, he started doing his environmental bullshit.
Right. But yeah, so then he was running, and then they had the Florida recount, and then he won anyway, and a lot of the fucking Democrats at the time were saying like, oh well, you know, he didn't win the popular vote, and he only got it because of the electoral college. And even in 2016, people were pulling the same thing, like, oh, well, you know, fucking Hillary won the popular vote. And it's like, well, okay, but the popular vote's not how we decide the president, so shut the fuck up and, you know, stop being a weirdo. And
well, it's also highly ironic that now, again, people talk about, oh, well, you know, if you try to cast aspersions on the legitimacy of the 2020 election, you're dangerous, you're an election denier. And I'm like, well, then what the fuck was 2016 until then? Like, what the fuck was the whole Mueller investigation and everybody insisting that the Russians, tried to interfere with the election to get Trump to win and all this. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what is that? Is that not election denial? Is that not you doing the exact same thing? And I guarantee you that all the people that sit around saying that shit now were the same people sitting around that were totally convinced that Mueller was going to get Trump any day now. The walls are closing in.
oh yeah,
The Russians, like every single one of them. So don't give me this bullshit.
yeah, there was people like us even back then who were just like, really, Russians? Like, you think that's what's going on right now? Okay, makes you feel better.
MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards.
MAGA forces.
Sorry, MAGA forces. That's so good.
MAGA like they just keep making it sound like this bizarre, shadowy organization full of like ninjas and like high-tech experts and people with insane. It's like Mission Impossible bullshit instead of like your 50-year-old boomer uncle
Yeah, no,
sharing memes on Facebook.
This is really sad.
Like
to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. They promote authoritarian leaders and they fan the flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country. They look at the mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th, brutally attacking law enforcement.
Oh, there it is. Brutally attacking law enforcement. How many cops died? Well, there was one. He died later from a heart attack from getting pepper sprayed.
Yeah.
But like, how many people? How many? I mean, but that day, as a result of the insurrection. I can't even believe. You know what? I'm ashamed that I just fucking used that word. The quote unquote insurrection. I didn't say it sarcastically enough. Like, Are you fucking kidding me? Like, brutally attacked law enforcement. They walked in.
Yeah, I know a couple of them were like wrestling their flags away and shit like that, or like pushing some barricades and stuff. But like nobody was hitting cops, and nobody was
I think the only
fucking up
the only
cops.
evidence that I've ever seen anybody put forward about cops being attacked was one guy got bonked with a flag. One guy. One guy
Yeah,
got bonked. That's it.
yeah, and he was fine.
Far as I know, he
who
didn't
placed a
fucking
dagger
die.
at the throat of our democracy. But they look at them as patriots. And they see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. That's why respected conservatives like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy. But while the threat to American democracy is real,
And so that kind of rhetoric was really interesting, right? Because like unequivocal phrases like a clear and present danger is something that you take military action against. When something is a clear and present danger is something that you take decisive action to combat right away. And so, you know, it's very interesting to see this kind of language being thrown around about right-wingers because obviously there's a huge portion of left-wingers who want to throw right-wingers into camps. You know, this is not like an exaggeration or some sort of fucking hyperbole. It's like, no. They talk about this openly. That's the humane option for them. You know, is if throw a bunch of perceived right-wingers, so that would include people like us, into re-education camps. That sort of shit. And like they are the ones who use those kinds of phrases like re-education and shit like that. And so it's very curious to see a president who is spouting out rhetoric that can be used by extreme leftists to further their authoritarian goals.
Well, yeah, he talks about, they elect authoritarian leaders. Well, then what the fuck is this supposed to be? I mean, this is batshit insane. You're talking about people who've been hollering about fucking Nazis for like the last decade, and now you're looking at an actual dude standing up, and I mean the optics are just horrifically bad. A dude standing up against a blood red backdrop, giving his speech, labeling, even though he keeps saying that he's not, labeling politically half of the country as a quote unquote clear and present danger.
Yeah,
And like,
what
even
do
if
you
he's
do
only
with
talking about MAGA Republicans, well, MAGA Republicans just means apparently the people who fucking voted for Trump when they voted for Trump. Like, are they not MAGA Republicans? Like, is that not what that is?
Yeah, that's 80 million people or so right there.
Yeah. And so now you're talking about labeling 80 million people or so as a clear and present danger. I mean, that's I mean, I don't know what else you fucking call that but fascist.
Fucking dangerous shit, right? People take that shit seriously.
And it's again, it's not just like Joe Biden talking. He's the president of the United States. As much disdain as I might have for that position, he is the president of the United States. He's the military chief of the United States. And I mean, this is the kind of rhetoric that we're getting from him. And like, this would be alarming if I thought that he was in his right mind. This is beyond alarming because I think that he's fucking insane and his mind is rotting.
Oh yeah, he's not lucid at all. I mean, you look at speeches of his 15 years ago or so much more lucid than he is now. He just seems to be so lost and so just out of his element. He just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
He just kind of slurs through everything too. He's not even as well spoken as he used to be.
I want to say as clearly as we can, we are not powerless in the face of these threats. We are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on democracy. There are far more Americans from every background and belief who reject the extreme MAGA ideology than those that accept it. And folks,
Is that not just a might makes right
it's
argument?
within our power. It's in our.
It's like, look, they're minorities, so we can crush them.
He's literally just saying there's more of us than you, therefore we have the divine mandate to rise up and take you out. I mean, this is just playbook shit. You label the threat, and then you incense your base against the threat, and then you justify the things that you end up doing to the threat. I don't know how this is anything but authoritarian and what I mean, if Donald Trump had gotten up in 2017 or 2018 and made this fucking speech with this fucking backdrop, people would have lost their goddamn minds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like,
and
people would have absolutely lost their minds. Now, the idea of Trump giving a speech like this is very funny to me because I can imagine the way Trump speaks, giving a speech like this. But the fact of the matter is that if somebody like Donald Trump, literally, honestly, if any Republican had gotten up, anybody who's not got a big D next to their name had gotten up and given a speech like this, the left would absolutely lose their fucking minds because it sounds and it looks horrible.
yeah, I mean, well, you saw how badly they freaked out over him saying that it was that the mainstream press was the enemy of the people. Which is,
I mean,
just,
and that was a
that's
very
true.
mild comment.
Yeah.
That's 100% true. But it's not like he was saying go out and like fucking murder them. He didn't label them a quote unquote clear and present danger.
Yeah.
There was this is a very, very thinly veiled threat. There are more of us than you, so you need to shut up, sit down, and get with the fucking program. Because you're
Yeah.
the minority, and we're in charge now, and we have bigger guns than you do.
Our hands, yours and mine, to stop the assault on American democracy. I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those moments that determine the shape of everything that's to come after. And now, America must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together we can choose a different path. We can choose a better path forward to the future. A future of possibility, a future to build and dream and hope. And we're on that path moving ahead. I know this nation. I know you, the American people. I know your courage. I know your hearts. And I know our history. This is a nation that honors our Constitution. We do not reject it. This is a nation that believes in the rule of law.
So, you honor the Constitution and the rule of law, then how about dismantling all those gun laws?
Yeah, like he talks a lot about like the Constitution and the rule of law. He talks about the rule of law a lot, which again is highly ironic, given that just a few years ago, these are the same people that were like running around burning shit down.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, only the MAGA Republicans have chosen anger and violence. There's no other political movements out there that have been saturated with anger and violence and angry rhetoric and all that. Just MAGA Republicans. It's just this
And
is
again,
the
this is
most like
all
politician that like I've had in our lifetime. I think where it's just very empty platitudes, very cookie cutter phrases and chants and all that shit, and very like he doesn't actually sound like he's talking to anybody at all. He just sounds like giving a speech to nobody, to the fucking air, and hoping that people believe him and shit. And it's not
yeah,
good.
they shot him out with a bunch of fucking drugs to keep him lucid, right? They put him out. He does his puppet thing. Very good. He comes back, they give him a little treat, and then they put him back in his box.
Give him a sugar cookie.
Or a lick of an ice cream cone.
True.
Here you go, Joe. Here's
We do not repudiate it.
here's a child
This
for
is
you
a
to
nation that
sniff.
respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it. And this is a nation that rejects violence
these
as
fucking
a political
clowns.
tool. We do not encourage violence. We are still an America that believes in honesty and decency and respect for others. Patriotism, liberty, justice for all, hope, possibilities. We are still, at our core, a democracy. And yet, history tells us that blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy. For a long time, we've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and
Who told who that democracy was guaranteed? Like, I don't. Again, he just seems that he's like coming up with shit out of thin air, just to sound really nice for the cameras.
every one of us. That's why tonight I'm asking our nation to come together, unite behind the single purpose of defending our democracy regardless of your ideology. We're
My ideology is anti-democratic.
Yeah, I mean, where where does that fit? Like,
The thing about democracy, so I guess we should talk about democracy itself for a little bit, because we're making fun of it and all this stuff with which for us is second nature, right? Like, we know democracy is bullshit, but a lot of people actually think that democracy is a good word, right? That they think that it's like, oh, we should strive to be a democracy because it's so great to be a democracy. Like, you got the socialists and the leftists going, we want to democratize the workplace and democratize the economy and making sure that the people are in charge. And so democracy comes from demo and kratos, which is people ruling. And so I'm always reminded of the Crass song Bloody Revolutions, which one part of that is talk about pride and power with violence as your tool. You speak of liberation and when the people rule. But ain't it people ruling right now? What difference would it be? Just another set of bigots with their rifle sights on me. And that's I think a perfect way to sum up democracy. It's like, you speak of liberation and when the people rule, because people rule, literally, that's what democracy literally means. People rule, democratus. And so my next thought immediately after that is always, well, ain't it people ruling right now? What difference would it be? Just another set of bigots with their rifle sights on me. And I think that's very fucking true, because the problem with authoritarianism or with government or any of that is not who is ruling. It's the idea of rulership over other people. that you think that you should be able to dictate how other people live their lives and control it. It doesn't matter if you think that it should be done through a politician or a king or a president, or if you think that there should be none of that shit and it's just people voting for this shit, right? That doesn't make it less exploitative. That doesn't make it less authoritarian. That doesn't make it any less, morally, ethically impermissible in terms of respect for individuals and respect for property rights, all that shit. And so it is another set of bigots.
Because bizarrely, and I don't know. I mean, this is I'm not exactly sure how to articulate this necessarily, but the idea of democracy working and how it works relies on kind of a doublethink in a lot of ways. And my main problem, I guess the big eye opener for me in looking into why democracy is wrong, or at least why democracy is not what people claim it to be. It relies on the idea that as a group you have to vote to make choices in order to get the best outcome, right? Because you're basically saying, there's no one solution that's going to make everyone happy. So we're trying to make the most people happy. We're trying to find some kind of middle ground. We're gonna try to compromise. But the reason why they say we need democracy is that because generally people are shit and will do absolutely anything they can to kill and oppress each other. And in
Yeah.
order to prevent this, we need to all get together and vote on solutions. And that keeps people from oppressing each other. And I go, okay, so you cannot simultaneously believe that the majority of people are bad and also simultaneously believe that the majority of people will pick the right thing. You can't believe both of those things. You also can't fall back to representative democracy and say people at large cannot be trusted, so only this select elite amount of people who are given even higher power than your average person, only they can be trusted. And if they can't be trusted, well, it's okay because then we can take them out of power. It doesn't make any sense. You've given these people more power than you have, but you think that you are somehow empowered to take them out of power. Like it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, well, because
like as a concept, doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I can see how people could believe it, right, or believe in it, because they say, okay, well, as long as we have, the people as a general whole will try to make decisions for the betterment of the people, and so therefore, we'll get something that's generally good, whatever. But it's just it's just all of it rides off of assumptions that are terrible to begin with. Again, this idea that we should even be ruling over each other through votes or through any kind of means, and deciding how other people should live their lives. Right off the bat there, it's like you've already failed the respect other people's shit sniff test, right? If you can't even pass that, then like why the fuck would you vote in like good policies or good politicians or any of this shit? Like I don't trust you. Your estimation of what is good or what is productive or moves people forward, right? And then that's how you get people like voting to just throw money at problems because that's their only solution, right? They think, I was like, oh, why do we have a homelessness crisis? It's because we haven't given homeless people homes. It's not because homeless people are doing something that makes them homeless perpetually. It's that we just need to throw money at the problem. And so you get these fucking shitty ass solutions because it's so easy to experiment with bullshit solutions when it's not your money that's being used, right? When it's not you who's being exploited over all this shit. And so it's easy for voters to create solutions to these problems that revolve around just handing out money to different areas and hoping that things get better. And the politicians themselves, I mean, they stay in power by obviously pandering to all these idiots, and then they then use their influence to siphon money away from other places into the places that serve them politically, and then nobody gets what they needed or what they wanted, and it was all predictable. All of this could have been, you know, people like us could have told you that these results would have happened, but they are so they're having a different fucking conversation, basically. They're not even paying attention to the same fucking book that we are. And so they're starting off at like a starting point of like what's acceptable and what's respectable, that is being an authoritarian dickbag, like the default.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a very good point that, like, yeah, but you know, between us and them, we're not even having the same conversation because we're not starting at the same point.
Yeah, because like when that's why we can use the same exact words that they do, like things like freedom and independence and this kind of shit. And it's like their set of like ground assumptions is so entirely foreign compared to ours. Is that like, it's like, oh, you know, when I talk about freedom, I mean absence of government, because government you know, is a leech and does not allow for us to have freedom. And for them, it's that government needs to be there to protect our freedom. And it's like, well, that's just wildly inaccurate. That's just insane.
Well, generally, and yeah, when you really get down to it and you start asking them enough questions, what it really comes down to is, you know, they're there to protect their freedom and to limit everyone else's, whoever that might be. The idea that, you know, that the state exists in order to protect their freedom all kind of stems from this, I guess, kind of weird belief that the people being free somehow benefits the state, or that the state has some reason in order to encourage and protect that in the first place, which they don't. They never have.
No.
The state benefits nothing from a population of free people. They stand to benefit everything from a population of people that are controlled and dependent.
Yeah, absolutely. And the the thing that like a lot of people don't get about anarchists is just like, listen, we're willing to acknowledge the incentive structures that exist within the state and within the political realm, and we know exactly what people are like. This is the hilarious part, is that we're accused of not understanding human nature or not getting how humans work and shit like that. It's like, no, we know exactly how humans work. That's why we don't want them to have power over me, over you. That's why I
Well,
don't want to have the power.
and that's what's wild to me, right? Like, you'll talk to some of these conservatives and they get really pissed off, and you know, they'll call you all kinds of shit and whatever, and they'll accuse you all kinds of shit. It's like, okay, but I am advocating for a system that gives me less power over you. Like, I could go out and vote right now. That's what makes me dangerous. Not that I believe in this stuff, but that I could go out and vote and influence what you are allowed to do. I could do that right now. You could do that to me and I could do that to you. We are being empowered to go out and use the state apparatus to force each other to conform to ideals and lifestyles that we believe in. We're not free to choose these things. We're free to force them on other people, and it's like, I'm advocating a system that takes that power away from me. And it takes it away from you, sure, but it also means that I can't do it to you and nobody else can, at least not as easily as they can now.
Yeah, and of course the narrative around voting is that, you know, it's you making your voice heard, shit like that. And it's just like, well,
Only if
it,
your voice is the loudest.
yeah, well, making your voice, but so like by casting your vote, it's like you're not only just speaking, right? You're not just giving a political opinion. you are contributing to the imposition of your political will on others, right? And so, just because there's a voting system in place doesn't mean that the institution of your political will isn't something that's forced upon others. You're still, forcing it upon others. You're just using the guys voting to give it this air of respectability and of civility, when it's just as barbaric as marching into a fucking place, turning it upside down. It's
It is.
not.
They've removed themselves from the actual violence that is inherent in what they're doing. Like they've cut in a middleman, you know? Now there's a middleman that does it all. So they don't have to see it. It's comfy. They don't have to acknowledge it. They don't feel complicit in it. You know, they're not the one holding the gun to anybody's head. They're just voting to have it done. Or they're voting in somebody who then votes to have it done. You know, they just keep adding steps between themselves and the violence, and then they kind of pretend that the violence doesn't happen. You know, they say, "Oh, well, what you want will be a lawless wasteland, full of people doing violence to each other." And I'm like, dude, that's what fucking happens now. Like the only difference between someone like you and me, and someone who's a politician or some of these well-connected billionaires and stuff is that we don't have a shitload of money to make sure that the law doesn't apply to us when we don't want it to. So you're really already looking at people who live outside of the law or above the law or worse, who write it uh, however they want. But you're fine because this is all done out of sight. You're not looking at it. And it happens very slowly or it happens incrementally so that, it's not happening all at once and it's not this, you know, this just very basal, brutally violent thing happening in front of you. It's just kind of sliced away in little pieces from you over time. And generationally, bleh, we don't notice it. Every new generation that's born, this is the freest that they've ever been or ever known. And so, they don't make a big fuss when little things get taken away a little bit at a time.
And yeah, again, the conversation is so in a different realm that you can use phrases like making your voice heard, and for them that means voting, and for us it means actually like speaking right to people and convincing people and shit. I remember I had a Facebook friend that, like, because every election year that comes by, I would always fucking just make fun of voting and talk about how bullshit it is and that I don't vote.
You do?
And I've never voted before in my life, and that's something I'm particularly proud of. And there's this one chick on there who she was an old friend of mine too. Like, I had known her since I was like 14 years old or some shit, and so we'd been friends a long time. And she was bent out of shape or whatever that I don't vote, or that I was talking shit about people who vote or vote about the voting process and shit like that. And at one point, I forget what the conversation was or what the topic of debate was, but like, just like in Tumblr, I am pretty decent at making my points online, right? I don't mean to brush off my own shoulders and shit, but like, I tend to know what I'm talking about before I open my mouth, or at least I tend to have a grasp of a lot of the subjects that I speak on in terms of like politics or economics, at least insofar as a layman who's not made this my job or my career or anything. So for a person who does something else for a living, I tend to be decently informed. And so when I create Facebook comments or start not start an argument, but like address people's arguments and shit like that, I'm pretty decent at it. So what does this chick do? She deletes my comments on her Facebook page, right? And she's like, well, you don't vote, so you don't care about your voice not getting heard, so I'm just gonna delete your comment and shit. And after that I was just like, okay, well, fuck out of my life forever then, bye. And I unfriended her and fucking blocked her. And like, you fuck off. Like,
What a horribly dishonest argument. Like, it was
yeah,
just an excuse to get rid of dissenting opinion.
Yeah, it's like, yo, you're straight up gonna like remove my comment from your Facebook thread, not because I said anything wrong or because I you know, made a point that was offensive or anything. Like I've had people delete my comments and shit because, you know, they're progs who fucking, you know, maybe see whatever I was saying as like rape apology or, you know, any other number of like evil bad trademark things, right? So like I get those people even if I think it's silly, but like she was just straight up wanted to avoid, you know, me being involved in the political conversations because she knows that I'm decent at what I do. And so the easiest way for her to do that was like, oh, you don't vote, you don't care about your opinion being erased or by not having a voice in politics, therefore I'm going to delete your comment from my fucking Facebook and thread and shit. And I was just like, yo, like you were my friend. Like we were not just some random people that knew each other through Facebook and shit. Like we were friends. I would call you on your birthday every fucking year and sing happy birthday to you in Spanish because I knew that you enjoyed that. Like, you know, we're fucking friends and you're just going to delete my fucking comment because I'm not a voter because I don't vote. And so, yeah, I was like, all right, fuck out of my life forever then. Get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't need your shit deleting my comments from a fucking Facebook conversation. It's the stupidest shit ever.
Yeah, that's some pretty ridiculous I guess tribalism.
Yeah. Yeah.
All by duty and conscience to confront extremists who put their own pursuit of power above all else. Democrats, independents, mainstream Republicans. We must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy. We, the people, will not let anyone or anything tear us apart. Today, there are dangers around us we cannot allow to prevail. We hear, you've heard it, more and more talk about violence as an acceptable political tool in this country. It's not. It can never be an acceptable tool. So I want to say this plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America, period. None, ever. We saw law enforcement brutally attacked on January 6th.
This is like the tiniest crowd of people ever, by the way.
Not a very big group of people. They make it seem bigger, but yeah.
Yeah, no. And again, more empty shit. Like none of this feels connected to reality at all.
Not. I mean, it's
We've
meant
seen election
to
officials poll work.
speak to people who already believe this. It's not meant to convince anyone. It's not meant to inform anyone. It's 100% meant to speak
Pander.
directly to people who already believe that this is a real thing that's happening. Yeah. And just kind of confirm what they already believe. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of pandering.
Workers, many of them volunteers of both parties, subject to intimidation and death threats. And can you believe it? FBI
Like Rand Paul?
Yeah. Really.
agents just doing their job as directed, facing threats to their own lives
Good.
from their own fellow citizens.
You promise?
Because, you
On
know,
top of that,
FBI agents doing
public
their
figure.
jobs, just doing their jobs, quote unquote, FBI agents just doing their jobs is bad. It's horrible. It's it's evil. What they do is evil. Therefore, they should be treated exactly like what they're doing is evil.
Yeah, fuck the FBI and their stupid job. How about that?
Like, I don't see the problem. Oh, they're just doing their job. I mean, isn't that always the fucking excuse for shit like this too? They're
Following
just
orders.
doing their job. They're just following orders. You know, I'm just trying to do my job. It's like, okay, but what your job is bad. Like, I don't care if you're just trying to do your job. They always couch it in this bullshit.
Get a better job.
FBI agents. FBI, yeah, I mean, really. Like, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, nobody put a gun to their head and forced them to be an FBI agent. Nobody forced them to do this. you know, they chose to do this. They chose to continue doing it. If they got orders that they disagreed with, they chose to follow them anyway. They chose to kill those people. They chose to flashbang that toddler in their crib, you know. It's fucking ridiculous. And yeah, they always get it down to, you know, they're just trying to do their job. Like they're just some average working Joe who's just trying to, you know, keep the lights on. Like, no, it's not how this works.
Figures today, yesterday, and the day before, predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets. This is inflammatory. It's dangerous. It's against the rule of law. And we, the people, must say, this is not who we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They're incompatible. We can't allow violence to be normalized in this country. It's wrong.
Wait. Hang on, back up. Did he just say you can't be pro-insurrection and be pro-American?
Yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly.
Does that make a lot of sense?
That's how we started.
Historically?
Oh.
Does that make a lot of sense historically, like at all?
Like, no, it's kind of how the entire thing got started here.
Political violence with all the moral clarity and conviction this nation can muster. Now, we can't let the integrity of our elections be undermined, for that is a path to chaos. Look, I know politics can be fierce and mean and nasty in America. I get it. I believe in the give and take of politics, in disagreement and debate and dissent. We're a big, complicated country. But democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic.
No, it's those things where like politicians try to reach across the aisle or like compromise on things or that sort of thing where they're like, yeah, man, I get it. You know, there's this side, there's that side. You know, it's all understandable, but you don't. Like, you really fucking don't. And this is the thing, is that like when you receive opposition, suddenly it's the threat to the fabric of the nation and shit. It's this whole big emergency. So very, very obviously, it's not like up for debate and, you know, up for all this shit. Like, it's just empty platitude.
An extremely mild pushback, I might add. Remember, all the violence and the anger that he's talking about is a bunch of 50-year-olds walking in to a building.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not even anywhere close on par with the kind of shit that people dealt with, you know, before all that. You know, their shit being burned down and stuff. People died. Like a lot of people died, actually.
Yeah, during the Summer of Love. Yeah.
People that were pulled out of their fucking cars and like beat to death and stuff, you know. God forbid you carry a gun to defend yourself, because then they'll be criticized. You'll be criticized for inciting violence, even though you're really just being prepared. Because people very much do get pulled out of their cars and beaten to death and run down in the street and stuff during this shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and now the threat to democracy, the anger and violence that is intolerable and horrible, is just a bunch of people walking into like I'd hate to see what he thinks about the stuff that they used to do to politicians when they disagreed with them. I mean, people talk about tar and feathering people, but like being tarred and feathered was like a very fucking serious deal. Like, you died most of the time. Because it wasn't just like, oh, here's some sticky stuff and then we throw some feathers on you. Like, no, this stuff was like legit hot, boiling tar, like extremely hot. Like, you would lose your skin with this shit being poured on you, and a lot of them fucking died. Like, this wasn't just a haha, we're humiliating you. Like, you fucking died. And this was just like a normal, acceptable reaction.
Yeah, we should
I think
bring that back. Make America great again.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think people more ironically, keenly understood that when somebody has that much power and that much of the ability to ruin so many people's lives with the stroke of a pen, that that's what you do
Yeah,
when
you
they
gotta let them
become
know
a
that
problem.
they're serving you.
You kill them because that's your only recourse, because otherwise they're gonna kill you.
Exactly.
Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the
Ugh.
people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where the MAGA Republicans are today. They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. It's
Oh,
fundamental.
it's cool to love America now. We're back around to, again, there's that nationalism. It's cool to love America now. The left loves America. They love their country. Nationalism is now a leftist thing. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me that this guy can stand up here and do this straight face. Like,
Well,
this is
here's
fucking
the thing that
astounding.
I mean, I expect this kind of stuff from politicians. I expect them to lie. I expect them to push propaganda. I expect them to do these kind of things because this is what they do. This is their whole career. We know that this is what politicians do, and it's easy to focus on them and get really pissed off. But the thing that's the most concerning is the, I don't know, 200-300 dipshits out in the audience clapping, because these are the people that, I mean, again, back around, these are the people that vote. These are the people who put their voices into politics and keep this whole machine grinding along. Like, these are the people that live next to us and we interact with every day. Like, these are the people that we actually have to deal with, and they believe this shit. They believe this shit.
It's like, how
If
could
if
you?
not
Like, you're an
if
adult. What,
not
you
if not
still
in
believe in
their
Santa Claus?
yeah. I mean, I mean, even if they don't believe it in their heart, what's the functional difference if they go out and vote for it anyway, you know? Like, they're still going out and voting for it. They're still putting these people in power. So it's like, okay, so they're lying to themselves. That doesn't change the fact that they are going out and voting for this shit. And I mean, that should be concerning. That's where the real danger of democracy lies, right? Is the fact that you have um, strangers that live, 4,000 miles away from you, um, dictating policy and like pushing this stuff on you. Somebody who has no idea what you personally need or want in your life, or anything like that, and they don't really care. They're just looking at everything through a very objective, extremely politicized lens, from usually a place of privilege. Let's be honest, a lot of people uh, that vote tend to be in these big urban centers. Like, they're not people that live in the middle of nowhere. A lot of people that just they don't give a shit about anything but local elections because this stuff doesn't affect them.
It's really wish people would wake up and have coffee, because this whole voting and democracy thing, it ain't it, man. This is not how you get a better world out here by decentralizing all these power structures and getting away from ruling over everyone else's life and finding all your
It's
solutions through the
it's only
government.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's only civilized in an aesthetic sense, in that you don't see people being killed to um, make sure that your politics are dominant.
Yeah,
Still happening.
and people just refuse to acknowledge is the fact that, like, so any law or anything that any action that does, or any rule that they set out there, all that is, uh, listen to me or else we kill you. And we
I mean,
can
yeah.
add a bunch of steps in the way, right? It's like, oh, we'll fine you, send you to this and that. It's like, well, no, but all of that ultimately comply, die, alas.
I have a great quote by Lysander Spooner um, that actually is, I think, pretty fitting for this particular discussion. I think I may have posted it a few days ago even, um, but I mean it's like it's perfect. So it's Lysander Spooner. He says the strong are always free by virtue of their superior strength. So long as government is a mere contest as to which of the two parties shall rule the other, the weaker must always succumb. And whether the contest be carried on with ballots or bullets, the principle is the same. For under the theory of government now prevailing, the ballot either signifies a bullet or it signifies nothing. And no one can consistently use a ballot unless he intends to use a bullet if the latter should be needed to ensure submission to the former.
Yeah,
Like, ultimately, all power that the state has is derived from violence.
yeah. There couldn't be any other way. Like, you really wouldn't. They wouldn't have any authority over anybody else if you weren't threatening to commit violence against those who don't abide by your rules.
Right. I mean, and to clarify, that's not to say that I feel that violence is inherently wrong. Sometimes it is necessary.
No, but
Like,
this is the
violence is
initiation of violence against peaceful people.
against peaceful people, against non-aggression, people who have done nothing to aggress against you. Like that's what makes it morally wrong. And to make matters worse, it's not just against people that are peaceful, but you've also created this, monopoly on on violence to where they can't even defend themselves legally under your rule anymore. And so they have no chance of fighting back. Like it's evil, it's cruel.
Definitely.
American democracy only works only if we choose to respect the rule of law and the institutions that were set up in this chamber behind me. Only if we respect our legitimate political differences. I will not stand by and watch. I will not the will of the American people be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost. I will not stand by and watch the most fundamental freedom in this country, the freedom to vote, and have your vote counted and be taken from you and the American people. Look, as your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me. Throughout our history, America has often made the greatest progress coming out of some of our darkest moments, like you're hearing that bullhorn. I believe we can and must do that again. And we are. MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. But I see a different America.
Yeah, as opposed to Democrats, they never lie or pursue profit or power. No insider trading going on or nothing. Definitely not. Come on, man. This is such just empty bullshit. Like, I cannot believe people like sit here and listen to this shit and eat it up. It's
Again, what is this goofy ass pivot towards like the MAGA Republicans hate America and everything America stands for? Like, again, since when did this fucking rhetoric work on leftists? Like, since when was this like something that worked on them? I don't get it.
this stuff is super pathetic.
An America with an unlimited future. An America that's about to take off. I hope you see it as well. Just look around. I believe we could lift America from the depths of COVID. So we passed the largest economic recovery package since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And today, America's economy is faster, stronger than any other advanced nation in the world. We have more to go. I believe we can build a better America. So we passed the biggest infrastructure investment since President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And we've now embarked on a decade of rebuilding the nation's roads, bridges, highways, ports, water systems, high-speed internet, railroads. I believe we could make America safer. So we passed the most significant gun safety law since President Clinton. I believe we could go from being the highest cost of prescriptions in the world to making prescription drugs and healthcare more affordable. So we passed the most significant healthcare reform since President.
What happened to the price of insulin, Joe?
I wonder what happened with that.
Yeah. No. You see, this is the thing. Is again the start of the conversation, right? Or like the framing of the whole conversation. Like you guys are so far behind on this shit that like your Overton window of solutions and shit still involves tyranny, and so like none of us are interested in that bullshit.
President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act.
And premiums went up.
And I believe we could create a clean energy future and save the planet. So we passed the most important climate initiative ever. The cynics and the critics tell us nothing can get done, but they're wrong. There is not a single thing America cannot do, not a single thing beyond our capacity if we do it together. It's never easy, but we're proving in America, no matter how long the road, progress does come. Look, I know the last few years have been tough, but today, COVID no longer controls our lives. More Americans are working than ever. Businesses are growing. Our schools are open.
Since when did COVID control my fucking life?
Yeah, it's like, well, never controlled my life. It doesn't even control my life
Well,
now and I have it right now.
It's also, yeah, and I mean, well, here's the thing: is like, well, COVID doesn't control our lives. It's like, yeah, because a couple of weeks ago, the CDC just up and decided that we didn't have to do anything anymore. Like, it was never COVID controlling our lives. It was these fucking lockdowns and mandates and CDC saying you got to do this and you got to do this and you got to do that. Like, COVID is a virus. It can't make you do fucking anything. It doesn't have a brain. It has no intent or will or anything like that besides reproduce. All of this shit happened because of the government, and all of this shit happened because of Joe Biden's fucking administration pushing all this stuff, and a little bit of Trump's administration. Like, yeah, he
Yeah.
made this possible. He did. They did. They laid the groundwork for a lot of the shit. They pushed out the vaccines and stuff. But the thing that pisses me off is they keep trying to blame, oh, COVID doesn't control our life, as if COVID is this, aware and sentient thing that we've defeated.
It's
And
a
it's
force of
not.
nature.
And it was never COVID that did anything to us. It was all the government response that caused all the problems.
Exactly.
And the only reason that any of that stopped is because now it's not politically viable anymore. And
It's an election
now
year.
Joe Biden gets to turn around and go, hey, look, I beat COVID. Now everything's going back to normal because we beat it, not because we just decided arbitrarily that we didn't need it anymore as a scare tactic.
Have been lifted out of poverty. Millions of veterans once exposed to toxic burn pits will now get what they deserve for their families and their compensation.
There he is,
American
flailing his kid
manufacturers
around
come
again.
alive across the heartland, and the future will be made in America. No matter what the white supremacists and the extremists say, I made a bet on you, the American people, and that bet is paying off, proving that from darkness, the darkness of Charlottesville, of COVID, of gun violence, of insurrection, we can see the light. Light is now visible. Light that will guide us forward, not only in words, but in actions. Actions for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, for America. Even in this moment, with all the challenges we face, I give you my word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic about America's future. Not because of me, but because of who you are. We're going to end cancer as we know it. Mark my words. We're going to create millions of new jobs in a clean energy economy. We're going to think big. We're going to make the 21st century another American century because the world needs us to. That's where we need to focus our energy. Not in the past, not on divisive culture wars, not on the politics of grievance, but on a future we can build together. The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail. They believe America is not like I believe about America.
But this whole speech is that in order for America to succeed, the MAGA Republicans must fail. So yeah, he's not being divisive or nothing at all. Just this is so boring.
Again, it's like it doesn't have there's no sense or reality to this. This is literally just a lot of shit strung together. It's one platitude to the next. Like that's as far as anybody is thinking about any of this shit is just from one platitude to the next, and it is all geared solely towards people who already believed all of this shit.
Yeah, this is incredibly dull.
I believe America is big enough for all of us to succeed. And that is the nation we're building, a nation where no one is left behind. I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. I still believe that to be true. I believe the soul is the breath, the life, and the essence of who we are. The soul is what makes us us. The soul of America is defined by the sacred proposition that all are created equal in the image of God, that all are entitled to be treated with decency, dignity, and respect, that all deserve justice and a shot at lives of prosperity and consequence, and that democracy must be defended, for democracy makes all these things possible.
No, it don't.
And it's up to us. Democracy begins and will be preserved in we, the people's habits of the heart, in our character, optimism that is tested yet endures, courage that digs deep when we need it, empathy that fuels democracy, the willingness to see each other not as enemies but as fellow Americans. Look, our democracy isn't perfect. It always has been. Notwithstanding those folks you hear on the other side there. They're entitled to be outrageous. This is a democracy. But history and common sense good manners is nothing they've ever suffered from. But history and common sense tell us that opportunity, liberty, and justice for all are most likely to come to pass in a democracy. We have never fully realized the aspirations of our founding, but every generation has opened those doors a little bit wider to include more people who have been excluded before. My fellow Americans, America is an idea, the most powerful idea in the history of the world, and it beats in the hearts of the people of this country. It beats in all our hearts. It unites America. It is the American creed, the idea that America guarantees that everyone be treated with dignity. It gives hate no safe harbor. It installs in everyone the belief that no matter where you start in life, there's nothing you can't achieve. That's who we are. That's what we stand for. That's what we believe. And that's precisely what we're doing. Opening doors, creating possibilities, focusing on the future. And we're only just beginning.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, go ahead.
I could have written an almost identical speech by Googling bumper stickers online and then just kind of finding enough of them and lining them up together to make some kind of speech out of them. I mean,
You just
that's all
needed
the whole.
Just needed the 4th of July magnet poetry for your fridge.
Yeah.
You know? and yeah, you gotta just basically come up with all this shit. It's just so politician-y. This is a very politician-y speech.
Our task is to make our nation free and fair, just and strong, noble and whole. And this work is the work of democracy, the work of this generation. It is the work of our time, for all time. We can't afford to leave anyone on the sidelines. We need everyone to do their part. So speak up, speak out, get engaged, vote, vote, vote. And if we do our duty, in 2022 and beyond, then ages still to come will say, we, all of us here, we kept the faith. We preserved democracy. We heeded our worst, we heeded not our worst instincts, but our better angels. We proved that for all its imperfections, America is still the beacon to the world, an ideal to be realized, a promise to be kept. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred, nothing more American. That's our soul. That's who we truly are. And that's who we must always be. I have no doubt, none, that this is who we will be, and that we'll come together as a nation that will secure our democracy, that for the next 200 years, we'll have what we had the past 200 years, the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America, the United States of America. And may God protect our nation, and may God protect all those who stand watch over our democracy. God bless you all. Democracy. Thank you.
Democracy.
There's
Thank
just democracy at the very end. God bless us all. Democracy. God damn, man. Like, you really are just fucking pathetic. This fucking guy is such a sad excuse for a fucking politician. Yeah, so I actually hadn't even watched the whole thing. I'd watched a couple of segments here or there, but yeah, it was basically the same thing over and over and over again, and nothing fucking interesting at all.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking bad.
Oh, you know what? There was one more thing that I wanted to bring up that I totally forgot to. Let me see if find it. My keyboard being fucked up right now? Oh no. Oh, weird. Okay. Yes, I cannot look it up right now, but Jon Stewart, Disney World. Yeah. So,
We have
there was the motherfucking Warrior Games or some shit. It's like some like military sponsored like competition that goes on, and there was a guy from Team Ukraine who was presented with a medal by Jon Stewart. His name is Ihor Halushka. And so he's a member of the Azov Battalion, and he's got himself a nice tattoo. Let's see. Where have we got his tattoo? There it is. Yeah. So if you look on his left elbow there, he's got himself a nice little Sonnenrad.
Oh my god, that's incredible.
Yeah, so when he actually, and so Jon Stewart presented this man with an award, and he's even fucking Jimmy Dore's pointing it out right here that he's wearing an arm sleeve over his left arm, right? And so he's hiding the fucking black sun tattoo. But yeah, there's Jon Stewart right there giving him a fucking medal. And so yeah,
Incredible.
I just thought that was hilarious. Is fucking Jon Stewart, one of America's most popular Jewish comedians, presenting a fucking neo-Nazi with a medal. And what the fuck did he say? He said some hilarious shit about it too. He was like, "Oh yeah, he represents like all that's good with Team Ukraine and his voice of I forgot, like, you know, justice or some bullshit." But I don't know. Yeah, my key fucking gone out on me right now, so I'd have to replug it in or whatever. But yeah, so that was another like news thing that I remember seeing that, and I'm like, yo, we have to fucking see this because it's just oh yeah, here it is, right here. Awarded Ukrainian military veteran named Ihor Halushka the Heart of the Team Award for, quote, inspiring his team with his personal what is that? Example. Yeah, personal example. And so yeah, that's what Jon Stewart had to say about this guy. And so yeah, he has a Sonrad Black Sun tattoo, and a Jew gave him an award. And
Incredible.
he went at Disney World, you know, so he got a free trip to Disney World, got given a medal by a Jew, and yeah, he's got Nazi tattoos. You know, just
the
as you do,
absolute fucking state of things.
right? Yeah, like how does John feel about this? Is like, yo, the guy you gave an award to, he's got himself a tattoo from the SS. Like, how do you feel about that, buddy? But yeah, that was the last bit.
God.
I remembered that like in the middle of this speech and shit. And I was like, oh shit, I gotta bring that up and show Hominis it. But yeah, that's what we got for today. My throat's feeling a little bit dry and parched, and I need to, you know.
Yeah, man, you need to take it easy. You're good.
I'm gonna go and rest myself a little bit. Have some of that soup that my mom brought over. God, I'm looking forward to that. It was just a big vat of fucking vegetables and broth. It looks so good.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit jealous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, come over and have yourself some if you want to, you know, weather the horrible California countryside. Yeah, you're more than welcome.
I mean, there's some places I'll say there's some places that are extremely beautiful in California, and I just wish that they didn't come with all the fucking horrible politics.
Yeah. I think as a place, California is a fine place to live and a place to be, but it's just horrifically painful. Like, especially for me as like a guy who, you know, wants to have a family and all this shit. It's like I don't think I could ever find it out here. I don't think that you know, there's anybody out here for me that I
Right, man. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever spoken, but I mean that's where my wife's from. That's where she was living when I met her, and I mean she's just like me.
That's true. I mean, there's some decent people out here. It's true. It's just because the thing is, it's a numbers game, and the numbers are very small for me too. Especially me for being having the politics that I do, but also being vegan on top of that is like it's too fucking like what the fuck is the term for it? Deal breakers. You know, like on either side, right? It's like a lot of people who like may be okay with veganism or whatever, my politics is going to be like a huge fucking deal breaker for them. And like anybody who like I would agree with politically and stuff, and the veganism aspect of that becomes kind of a deal breaker for them, or like a point of uncertainty, right? Even though like I don't consider myself a particularly obnoxious vegan, but I do you know, I am proud of not like proud of being vegan. I don't know if I would put it that way, but I you know, I believe in the cause, right? I do.
You believe in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
believe
believe in
in
it.
like I'm vegan because I want to do less harm to animals. I think this is the best way that I can do that personally, like with my own personal choices and things. And you know, I made being a vegan cook like my career. Like I don't just work in the restaurant industry. I work in vegan kitchens because like that's what makes me happy and that's what makes me feel fulfilled is serving food that I agree with ethically and taste wise too, right? I'm not going to serve fucking disgusting food either. And so,
Yeah, you
you
wouldn't
know,
serve food you don't believe
again,
in.
it's
I
not that
mean,
I don't
same.
think that
Yeah,
there's nobody out there that would that I would appeal to or whatever. It's just the numbers game is super fucking against my favor. Uh, being here, like if it was just vegan, like if I could just find somebody who was into a vegan, that's easy fucking peasy. But but yeah, my politics and the vegan together combined is something that a lot of people have trouble looking past, or is something that like for me, like I'm not gonna choose like I'm okay with dating an NPC in a general sense, but not one that's like absolutely deranged, you know, because like I might be
and
dating a normie, but
I mean, dating is one thing, but it's somebody that you want to like long-term relationship with, possibly spend the rest of your life. That shit becomes way more important. It really
yeah,
does. It gets hard to deal with a lot of things. I mean, you'd be surprised. You get blindsided by it. You know how often it comes up, and but it does. It really does. It's an important thing.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's this place is okay. Like California is not like horrible generally, but it's still like a lot. It's in terms of just
Yeah, it's
how
a
some
lot.
people are. Like sometimes I'm just very very tired of it all, and fucking putting up because it's like it's at my work as well as at like places that I visit and stuff where I'm just I just see the message there, right? Like like all the Pride Month shit where they're like, oh, we gotta have Pride events. Like my gym was having like Pride events and stuff. And I was just like, okay, well, I mean, like I don't really, I'm not affected by it, right? Like it's not like something that's like, oh no, they got Pride Day, that day, therefore, like now my climbing is ruined. It's not like that at all. It's like, okay, you want to make gay people feel welcome or whatever. That's cool, I guess. But I just didn't really think that there was anything unwelcoming, to gay people like that needed to be overtly stated. Like it didn't seem to me that like there's some underlying aspect that like gay people were like, oh, I don't know if they like me here, but oh, they did Pride Month, okay, like well, I guess it's okay then. And my work has one of those the heart that's like made of the pride flag, but like the woke pride flag, so not even like the regular rainbow one, but like the one with like the black and the brown stripe in
The
it.
the fucking graphic design is my passion flag.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that thing is just so fucking ugly.
Yeah, and it's just like, and this is supposed to be appealing to me, right? Because there's got the brown stripe in it or whatever. It's like, why do I need to be included in the pride
You're
flag?
you're you're in
The
the
poop
flag.
stripe.
See, you're the brown stripe.
I'm the poop stripe, in the flag, and I'm just like, why do I need to have a pride flag
Mm.
with gay people? Like, I'm not the same as a gay person. I don't know. I don't have any. And it's like California
Doesn't
too,
make
Southern
any
California.
sense
It's
to
like we
have.
we have so many Latinos here that it's like I don't understand like why anybody would think like Latinos are disadvantaged in Southern California. I mean, I'm bilingual, and I'm very fortunate for that, and have seen many advantages employment wise because of that. So it's just a bunch of silliness out here. Is all just wild. So yeah, I don't know. I'll maybe find myself a nice smaller area and see if people will enjoy themselves a vegan restaurant there. Yeah,
You
I
never know.
figure.
I mean, and I think a lot of people honestly would respond well to, okay, this is my vegan restaurant, this is my vegan food. Try it, because I mean, like I mean, I don't particularly care if a dish does or does not have meat in it. Like that's not my main focus. If it's good, I will
Yeah,
eat it. I'm not picky eater. I've never been a picky eater, but I do like to think that I know what good food is. I like cooking. I like cooking for people. I find it very relaxing. I like trying new stuff. Um, and I think people would respond well to food as long as it's good, honestly. And then, I think that it makes it more approachable because then you can say, okay, so, now you've tried this, it's good. Like, here's the philosophy behind it, you know?
Yeah, it's and that's the thing for me with what I do and stuff. It's like, yes, I'm gonna present it as a vegan restaurant. I'll be upfront with that and say, listen, I'm a vegan guy. I cook vegan food. Here's my vegan restaurant. But it's like I'm not riding on the vegan bit to be like the selling point or to carry the restaurant, right? I don't even
Right,
want.
exactly.
And I think even most vegan restaurants, like, they realize that, like, vegans are not their primary clientele. Um, oh yeah. Yo, you left the stove on, and I totally fucking forgot about that. Um, and but yeah, we're gonna get going anyway. But yeah, my point was yeah, like, I'm gonna make a vegan restaurant, and but the focus, I mean, it'll be focused on being vegan, but the focus will be on making good food, because I mean, that's what I am. I'm a cook, and I want to
Right.
create dishes that people enjoy, and that's what I'm here to do. And like, the primary clientele is not going to be just vegans. It's not going to be just that only, because it's like you couldn't even sustain a restaurant off of that. So it's like you have to be
Yeah.
willing to meet people, where they're at, and to appeal to them, and to not just write off of, oh, it's vegan, it's fresh, or it's this. Well, no, it's fucking delicious, man. And um if you have the food, then you're gonna not only want to come back, you're gonna tell other people about it and tell them how fucking fantastic it is, and you're gonna tell them, hey man, like, don't even worry about the vegan shit. Like, just go there and have just pick something off the menu and give it a try, because it's fucking good, regardless. So yeah, that'll be the focus. And yeah, maybe I'll find myself a better location than Southern California to
Trust me,
settle down.
I get it, man. I don't even live somewhere that's like particularly urbanized. I mean, we do have a downtown like area. And I used to be down there a lot. I used to go down there a lot. I used to like going down there a lot. I guess, yeah, I'd say like 15 years ago, I used to enjoy more downtown areas and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's just me getting older, or if it's just as my philosophy has evolved. But like, I live in a relatively like rural-ish area. Like, yeah, there's like a subdivision out here, but like, there's nothing around us but like cows, which I like. I like that. But more and more people are moving into this area as the years go on, and it's gotten like it's exponentially increased the amount of people that are moving here, and like the amount of like growth that's going on in this area, and I'm just starting to feel crowded. Like, there's just
Yeah.
so many people here now. It's getting nuts, and I hate it. There's like subdivisions, not around us, but like starting to pop up in other places. I mean, everybody is moving here, and I'm just like, man, I'm thinking like the next, I don't know, maybe 5, maybe 10 years, depending on how it goes. Like, we're just gonna try to get out of here and move somewhere that's a lot more rural. Because I mean, I like the mountains. I don't want to see my neighbors unless I want to see my neighbors.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that, because I'm in a fucking apartment complex. Just, I got people living below me, to the left of me, below the people to the
They're
left of
done
me.
that.
And then this building that I'm in is in a courtyard with another building across from me, and buildings on either side as well. And we're all facing inwards to like this small, like, grassy area with a couple of trees and shit. And so fucking somebody across the courtyard gets in a fight with their fucking wife, and I have to hear it, or my fucking downstairs neighbor fights with his girl, like, at least once a week and shit. And so they're like fucking yelling bloody murder at each other at like 7 in the morning and shit. And I'm just like, damn, you fucking guys, please. So yeah, I would really
Right.
appreciate a little bit of space between me and the next person over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for us for today. It was a good stream. I enjoyed it, except for the Biden speech, which I did not enjoy. Fucking torture, and I kind of regret it making us watch that because it's just a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, that's what we got for today, and we'll keep our ear to the ground, nose to the ground, eyes peeled, whatever. We'll be on the lookout for fun stuff to talk about next time. Thank you to everybody who came by, stopped by, had a conversation with us, and listened to us rant about a bunch of random bullshit for 3.5 hours. Jedi, thanks for coming by. Yeah, I know you got a thing about fungus and you don't like mushrooms, but I love mushrooms. They're my favorite. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Hominis, say goodbye to everybody.
See you guys.
All right, have a good night.